Hey guys, Chaos Shinobi here. This is a story where Naruto's personality of being an idiot is just an act and he drops that mask. Also, Naruto is able to learn more than shadow clones from the Forbidden Scroll, getting a fox contract and being able to use all element natures. Now let's begin. Chapter 11. Naruto was lying down on his bed wondering who would be teaching him for the Chunin exams finals. Kyubi could teach him, but he needed somebody else so he wouldn't be too reliant on his Tusan. Flashback. Naruto was in the hospital to visit his girlfriend Hinata. He entered the room to see the raven-haired Hyuga lying down on her hospital bed. The fluid that was supposed to heal her was flowing through a tube into her bloodstream, but her breathing was ragged. Even though she looked fine on the surface, it was a different matter for her on the inside. Naruto then walked up to the girl's bed and placed the bouquet of roses he bought for her on her bedside table. He tucked back a stray strand of hair away from her face and smiled while caressing the cheek of the sleeping girl. "You're gonna be all right, Hinata-chan. And also I'm gonna defeat Niji for you. For putting you down and beating you up like this," Naruto said with tears in his eyes. "I swear it," he finished and then left the room, wiping the tears from his eyes. As Naruto walked out, he saw a familiar mop of gravity defying silver hair. "Kakashi-sensei," Naruto called to the Jonin. Kakashi turned and saw the hyperactive blonde and waved. "Hey Naruto, what brings you here?" he asked. "Came to see Hinata-chan," Naruto replied. "Ah, I see. How's she holding up?" "She appears fine, but she's still unconscious." Kakashi nodded, and then turned to leave, but was stopped by Naruto. "Kakashi-sensei, will you help train me for the Chunin exams?" the blonde Jinchuriki asked. Kakashi sighed and shook his head. "Gomen, Naruto, but I have to teach Sasuke since I'm the only one who could teach him how to use his Sharingan, and I have arranged Sakura to train with Kurenai. But I couldn't find a suitable teacher for you, Naruto," Gomen Kakashi said, and then left the hospital. Naruto watched the retreating back of his sensei and then also left to go home and think who his sensei would be. "I could teach you, Kit, but I know that you want somebody you could relate to and is well human," Kyubi said. Naruto sighed. "Hi, Tusan," and what Kakashi-sensei said was true. There aren't many, or most likely no one, who has my type of attitude and feelings when it comes to being a shinobi. Kakashi and Sasuke are a perfect student and teacher matchup because they are both cool-headed and have the Sharingan, Naruto mentally thought back to Kyubi. The boy and fox sighed in defeat as Naruto went inside his apartment building to sleep. End flashback. Naruto got off his bed and decided to go to the hot springs to calm his nerves because he was feeling kind of is an understatement, he was feeling really stressed out from trying to figure out who could teach him. Naruto went to bathroom, grabbed a towel, his swimming trunks, and then left to go to the hot springs. Konoha Hot Springs. Naruto had now just entered the hot springs and went into the men's side where he changed and then went into the soothing warm waters that were the hot springs. "Hey Kit, come in here for a minute. I have something that might help with your fight," the great fox said. Naruto nodded and then focused on clearing his mind, and then in a bright flash, a half-naked Naruto appeared before the Kyubi in his mindscape. "Hey Tusan," Naruto greeted the fox. Kyubi turned his head from the pond of koi and saw his Kit. "Hey Kit, hey, have you been working out? You have like a six-pack and biceps and all that crap." Naruto shrugged. "I train with you and Kakashi-sensei and you don't expect any results." "I'm appalled," Naruto said in mock sadness. "Now then, about that thing you wanted to give me," Naruto said. Kyubi chuckled at Naruto's sarcastic sadness and then turned serious at the mention of the special thing Naruto was to be given. "Okay Kit, this is the only thing I will be giving you to help with your fight, and that's it. I won't train you for the rest of the month. Got it?" Naruto nodded, and then sat down at Kyubi's feet. "Good, now here it is," Kyubi said. Kyubi held out a paw and concentrated his yukai into the palm of his hand. The red yukai swirled and began to take on a cylindrical shape. The yukai then became solid, and there, in the demon fox's hand, was a large scroll about 9 feet tall. It was red and gold and had the drawing of a 9-tailed fox howling. "This Kit is the legendary Kitsune summoning contract. I believe you are now ready to summon my kin. Just bite your thumb and write your name in the space provided on the scroll with your blood, and then put the blood from your thumb and put it on all 5 of your fingers, and then make 5 simultaneous fingerprints with your blood, and then you will be able to summon the foxes." Naruto squealed in excitement and took the scroll, but fell down as it was heavier than he expected. Naruto quickly go up and rolled open the scroll, but noticed something odd. The scroll only opened about a few feet and only had space for one name. Naruto got a puzzled look on his face. "Tusan, Why is there only space for one name and why is this scroll legendary? Naruto asked. Kit, the reason this scroll is legendary is because only the leader of the foxes can carry this scroll and many have tried to obtain its power, for the Kitsune are one of the 3 sacred summoning clans consisting of us Kitsune/Fox, the Phoenix/Phoenix and the Ryu/Dragon. As for the one space, the 3 sacred clan leaders of each generation make an oath that if they ever meet a human they believe is trustworthy, reliable and strong enough to be able to wield the power of that clan, they can only allow that human and that human alone to sign the contract. However, if that human happens to die before their time, then we have to wait a whole 3 millennia before we can choose a next user of our contracts. But if that human dies naturally, then we only have to wait a millennia. Naruto nodded in understanding before biting his thumb, and all of the instructions Kyuubi said were required for gaining access to the Fox contract. The scroll then dissipated into thin air and was to be never seen again until 1 to 3 millennia have passed. Good. Now you've signed the contract. In order to perform Kuchiyose no Jutsu/summoning jutsu, you must offer a blood sacrifice, which is done by biting your thumb. Once you have done the blood sacrifice, you perform the hand signs. Inoshishi/boar, Inu/dog, Saru/monkey, Tori/bird, and Ohitsuji/ram, and then slam the palm of the hand you have bitten on the ground and yell, Kuchiyose no Jutsu, and the animal you have chosen to summon will appear. Try it. Naruto nodded and then bit his thumb and formed the necessary hand signs. Kuchiyose no Jutsu/summoning jutsu. Naruto yelled, slamming his palm on the ground. A large plume of smoke appeared, and when the smoke cleared there stood a snow-white fox with 8 tails swishing in the air, its slitted green eyes, observing its new environment. The fox then sniffed the air, and then its eyes widened before turning in the direction of Kyuubi. Kyuubi-kun, is that you? The snow-white fox, which due to its tone of voice was female, asked. Kyuubi's eyes were also wide and nodded before he and the female fox ran up to each other and nuzzled their noses. Kyuubi-san, who is that? Naruto asked. Kyuubi and the white kitsune turned their heads. Kit, this is my mate, Saiyan, Serenity. The fox lord said, nuzzling the neck of his mate. So Kyuubi-kun, who is this child? Saiyan asked, looking at Naruto. Kyuubi moved from Saiyan's side to Naruto's. This Saiyan is my adoptive Kit, Uzumaki Naruto. Why have you chosen to adopt this human? She asked, puzzled. Kyuubi gave a long sigh, because, Saiyan-chan, ever since that Orochimaru team sent me to attack Konoha, the Yondaime Hokage performed a few ninjutsu to seal me inside this Kit, and due to my sealing they believe that he is my reincarnation that destroyed their village, so I have been helping Naruto to become stronger in order to help him achieve his dream of becoming Hokage. Oh, I see. So that's why you haven't been home or made contact with us, Saiyan said. Kyuubi nodded with a sad expression. The only way I can be free is if the Kit dies of a natural death, and if he dies before his time, I will die with him, and that is why I must keep him alive. Suki and the others have been asking, where their Tusan is, Saiyan whispered to herself. How will I tell them that their father has been sealed into a human, she asked Kyuubi. Kyuubi shook his head, but Naruto, feeling left out, cleared his throat in order to get the 2 giant foxes' attentions. The foxes turned their heads towards Naruto. What Kit? Kyuubi asked. Well, Tusan, how about I summon your Kits and Saiyan here at how much times a week I can handle? Naruto implied. The foxes smacked their heads with their paws. Why haven't they thought of that? That's a wonderful idea, Naruto Saiyan said with happiness, but then froze. Kyuubi-kun, are sure you think he is the one believed to summon us, she said to her mate. The fox lord nodded with a vulpine grin. But, until the end of the Chunin exams, I won't have time to do that, Naruto said, scratching his head on embarrassment. Saiyan and Kyuubi nodded in understanding. It's okay, Kit, we understand, but make sure you keep your word on this, Kyuubi said. Of course, Naruto, take as much time as you need before you are ready to summon us to see Kyuubi or to aid you in battle. Farewell, Kyuubi-kun, Naruto-kun, Saiyan said as she went back to the fox den in the world of summons. Naruto and Kyuubi waved by as they watched the snow-white kitsune leave in a poof of smoke. Well, Kyuubi, I swear I will keep my promise to you and Saiyan. So later, Naruto said. Arigato, Kit, arigato, but one last thing, you can also summon me. Just ask me for some chakra and I will lend you my yukai and you will be able to summon me. That is the only way to summon me. As for the other kitsunes, you can use your ordinary chakra. Naruto nodded and then, in a flash of light, he disappeared from his mindscape. Outside Naruto's mindscape, Konoha Hot Springs. Naruto woke up, he looked at the sky and saw it was only about 2 p.m. A/N. People have estimated the time by looking at the location of the sun in the sky. He had been in the springs for only 20 minutes. Wow, time passes really slowly when I'm in my mind, he thought. Well, time to get out. Naruto then grabbed the towel he had brought with him and dried himself as he walked into the men's changing room and changed into his clothes of a navy blue t-shirt, his hitai around his forehead, a pair of orange shorts and blue ninja sandals. Naruto then left to go home, but then he heard something. He listened and heard the sound, and thanks to his advanced hearing, located the sound, which sounded a lot like a perverted giggle, like what Kakashi uses when he's reading his perverted book. Naruto then walked in the direction of the giggling until he finally reached the women's side of the hot springs. Naruto walked further, and there he saw an old man. The man had long spiky white hair, most of it was in a ponytail from. The man wore a green pair of long pants, green and red vest, which was worn over a fishnet shirt, and was carrying a large scroll on his back and had red face paint, like a kabuki dancer. Hey you, Arobaka/perverted idiot, what do you think you're doing? Naruto yelled. The old white-haired man turned away from the peephole he had made and gasped when he saw Naruto. Kyuso, Gaki, keep it down, I'm doing very important research here, the man said. Naruto looked at him with a, are you fucking stupid, I can see right through you look. Yeah right, and I'm the Yandame's son, a/N. Oh ho ho, if only he knew. Cut the shit and stop peeping. Naruto yelled even louder in order for the ladies inside to hear. There were gasps heard from inside the partially no longer concealed women's bathhouse, and screams of pervert were heard. Then Naruto, being the smart person he is, hinged into his Oryoku no jutsu from, except with clothes. The women stepped out. Luckily they were covered in towels, so Naruto didn't get a super huge nosebleed. A/N. He got one though. The old man screamed in terror as the women chased him down. They finally caught him and beat the man to a pulp and then went back into the bathhouse. Naruto then released his henge and walked over to the beaten white-haired old man, laughing. Ha! Serves you right, you Arobaka, Naruto said. The old man groaned before all of a sudden got up, angry and completely healed. How is he healed? Naruto thought with a sweat drop. You little Gaki, I'll destroy you, I was doing very important research, the man yelled. Research for what? Naruto yelled back. The man grinned and then pulled out the famous little orange book, Ika Paradise. You see, I am a writer of novels such as this one, he said. Naruto's eye twitched. I've seen it before, that book is a shame to all mankind. Why would you make something like that? It's a big load of shit. Besides, who are you anyway? Naruto yelled/asked. The man then started doing a little kabuki dance. I am feared in the lands of the north, east, south and west. People tremble before me when they hear my name. I am the chosen Sannin of Gama Sage's mountain. I am one of Konoha no Sannin, the Gama Sannin, Jiraiya said. He looked at Naruto to find the boy sleeping on the ground. Jiraiya's eye twitched. Gaki, wake up, Jiraiya yelled. Naruto woke up screaming. Ha! What? Okay, so you are Jiraiya the Gama Sannin? Naruto asked. Jiraiya grinned. Oh, so you've heard of me? He asked. Yeah, Naruto replied. But my image of you has now been reduced to rubble because I used to think you were some super cool and strong ninja. But now I see you're just some perverted man. So from now on I will call you Ero Sannin, Naruto said. Jiraiya's eye twitched again. You know, kid, I hate you, Jiraiya said in a monotone. Naruto put his hands behind his back. Yeah, I get that a lot, Naruto said with a foxy grin. So what's your name, Gaki? Jiraiya asked, realizing he never knew the kid's name. Uzumaki Naruto, the next Hokage to take over Gigi, he said. Jiraiya's ears perked up at the name Uzumaki. Ah, so you're the Kyuubi Gakiya? Jiraiya asked. Naruto froze and then became silent. Jiraiya became worried and put his hand on the kid's shoulder. Hey Naruto, don't be ashamed of the Kyuubi. He's a gift, not a curse, Jiraiya said with a smile. Naruto looked up. No, it's not that, it's just that people always tend to want to beat me up because of him, and I thought you were one of them. I mean, the Yandame was your student and I thought you might want to take revenge by hitting me, Naruto said quietly. Jiraiya sighed. You really had it bad before you became a ninja, didn't you, Naruto? Naruto nodded. Well, if you need anything, just tell me. I can help, Jiraiya said and turned to leave. Mateo/wait, Naruto called. Jiraiya turned to face Naruto. What? Well, you see, I am participating in the Chunin exam finals next month and my sensei is helping to train my teammate, so I need a sensei who I could relate to, and you seem so much like me, so I was wondering if you could be my sensei. Naruto asked. Jiraiya looked shocked. What kind of teacher would abandon their student like that? Who's your sensei? Hatake Kakashi no Sharingan and my teammates are Haruno Sakura and Uchiha Sasuke, Naruto replied. Jiraiya nodded. I see. So Kakashi needs to teach the kid with the Sharingan Well then, seeing that you don't have a sensei, I will take you on as my apprentice, Jiraiya said. Naruto looked at the Gama-sanin with a shocked look. Really? You'll make me your disciple? Naruto asked. /N. I think it's nice whenever you make the title a line in the story. Jiraiya nodded, and then Naruto started jumping up and down in excitement. Now time to start your training, we'll stop at sunset, okay, Jiraiya said. Naruto nodded. Jiraiya then removed the scroll from his back and unrolled it. There were the names of Jiraiya and some guy named Namake's Minato. Hey, who's this Minato guy? Naruto asked. Jiraiya looked at Naruto with a grin. Namake's Minato was my most treasured disciple, and the Yondaime Hokage, Jiraiya said with pride. Naruto was shocked, so that's the Yondaime's name. Now then I will teach you Kuchiyose no Jutsu, Jiraiya said. Naruto looked at Jiraiya and said, Gomen Erosanin, but I already have a contract, Naruto said. Jiraiya looked surprised. Really, which one? He asked. Kagebunshin gave it to me, the contract of the legendary Kitsunes, Naruto said with a proud tone and sticking out his chest. Jiraiya was slack-jawed and then composed himself. You mean to tell me, you were given the contract of Kitsunes and call the very demon that tried to destroy Konoha Tusan? Jiraiya asked with anger as he tried to control his want to outburst at Naruto. Jiraiya was then knocked to the ground and had a fist surrounded by wind. You dare disrespect Kagebunshin again and my Kaze Kiwa/Wind Edge will turn that face of yours to shreds. For you never heard the real story that Orochimaru brainwashed Kyuubi into attacking the village, Naruto said with killer intent in his voice. His eyes flashing from blue to red and the winds of the Kaze Kiwa swirling around his arm, ready to annihilate Jiraiya. Jiraiya then kicked Naruto off of him and then dusted his clothes off and saw the winds of the Kaze Kiwa disperse from Naruto's arm. Gomen Naruto, I didn't know, Jiraiya said. Naruto got up and dusted himself off and then walked back up to Jiraiya. It's okay. I just don't like it when people disrespect him, Naruto replied. Now then about that Kitsune contract. Kyuubi gave it to you meaning that he thinks you are the one believed is trustworthy enough to summon them, Jiraiya said. Naruto nodded his head. Jiraiya sighed and then rolled scroll back up and then reattached it to his back. Well, guess there's no point in teaching you how to use the Kyuubi's Yukai and how to summon. So I guess I'll just teach you some ninjutsu that may counter your opponent. By the way, who is your opponent? The very first match of the finals, Hyuga Neji Naruto replied with malice in his tone. He hurt Hinata-chan during the preliminaries. Hinata's a Hyuga too, Naruto said. Jiraiya nodded. Yeah, I never liked some of those Hyuga anyway, so now then, in order to counter a Hyuga, you're gonna need some long-range jutsus. So tell me which jutsus do you know already, Jiraiya said. Well, from the Forbidden Scroll, I learned Kagebunshin no Jutsu, Karawenden, Suryuden, Raryuden, Doryuenden, Furyuenden no Jutsus, Raikurai no Jutsu, Kaze Kiwa, which I made myself and am able to do without hand signs after 7 weeks of practice, Ketan. Gukakyu no Jutsu, Mizubunshin, Kazebunshin, Keichiriken no Jutsu, Futon, Daitapa, Oryoke no Jutsu and Doton, Doryuhiki. I think that's it, Naruto replied. Jiraiya nodded. Okay, so you know a lot of elemental jutsus, so I guess you have all 5 elemental chakras. Based on that, you know all 5 elemental dragon jutsus like me, Jiraiya said. Naruto nodded and then asked, how do you have all 5 chakra elements? Well, you see, when I was young I attempted the Kuchiyose no Jutsu, but I didn't have a contract and ended up being sent to the mountain of the Toad Sages, and there I trained to be a Toad Sage, and when you become a Toad Sage you become one with nature and gain access to all chakra elements and the ability to do elemental fusion, Jiraiya explained. Elemental fusion? Naruto asked. Elemental fusion is the ability to fuse 2 elemental chakras and create a new one. For example, Hai/Fire and Tsuchi/Earth chakras fuse to create Yoton Jutsus/Lava-style Jutsus, Jiraiya said. Naruto nodded and then said, teach me elemental fusion Erosanin, Naruto said. Stop calling me that and first show me that Oryoke no Jutsu, Jiraiya said with a perverted grin. Will you teach me elemental fusion if I do? Naruto asked with a cautious tone. Yeah, sure, whatever, just do it, Jiraiya begged. Naruto sighed. This man has no shame, he said and then hinged into his Oryoke form. Jiraiya stuffing tissue paper up his nose to prevent from getting a nosebleed when he saw the totally hot blonde and not to mention nearly completely nude female in front of him. "Sugoi, you are a genius, my boy. I knew it was the right thing to train you," Jiraiya said, quickly taking notes. "I can already see my next bestseller," he said with a giggle, and then fainted from the pressure of blood being backed up. 30 minutes later, 3:30 p.m. A/N. Naruto and Jiraiya talked for like an hour. Okay, we'll leave it at that for the time skip. Jiraiya woke up from being hit in the face with a bucket of ice-cold water. "Cold, cold, cold. Oh dear Kami-sama, that is so cold," Jiraiya said, shivering. "You'll pay Gaki," he said, glaring at his apprentice. "Gomen, Ero-sanin. But you wouldn't get up after the first 29 minutes of me slapping you in the face," Naruto said with a chuckle. Jiraiya then used an evaporation jutsu to dry his clothes and then got serious. "Okay, Naruto, we'll be training for the entire month, stopping only to use the bathroom, eat and sleep. So don't expect me to go easy on you," Jiraiya said in his serious tone. Naruto nodded. "You have the same rules as Kyubi-san for when he puts me up with serious training," he said with a chuckle. "Well, great minds think alike," Jiraiya said, and then told Naruto to go home and get ready for training and make sure to get plenty of sleep and meet him at the top of the Hokage monument tomorrow. Naruto left with a smile. He was going to be trained by Ero-sanin, and he would be able to get strong enough to take down Neji for hurting his Hinata-chan. Chapter 12. Elemental Fusion begins. Naruto got up at 10 o'clock this morning. He said a mental good morning to Kyubi and then took a shower, brushed his teeth, put on his clothes, an orange shirt with a red swirl on it and a pair of long black pants and black ninja sandals, and then ate his breakfast of eggs, toast and bacon. "Time to start elemental fusion training with Ero-sanin," he said to no one in particular. "Prepare for it, kid, for this type of training is tough. It gave even me a good workout," Kyubi advised. "I'll be fine, Kyubi. What could possibly be so hard about elemental training?" Naruto said confidently. On top, the Hokage monument. "What the hell is this? How is this going to help me with my elemental fusion training?" Naruto yelled. Naruto had to do a measly 200 push-ups, which he could handle from his daily training, but he couldn't do it this time, not with a fucking fat frog. Whoops, I mean Toad sitting on his back, and said Toad was holding a boulder in its hand like it was a pebble. Naruto groaned as he struggled to do his 5th push-up with the ginormous Toad on his back. Naruto, the ability to be able to accomplish elemental training is to become stronger in both body and mind. The mind part is clear because I can see through your mask of stupidity, so you seem to be smarter in more aspects than others. The most I could do is to do more advanced work, but I don't feel like teaching. So therefore I must now work you physically. So shut your damn mouth, get those 700 push-ups done before. Jiraiya looked at the sun. It was noon. "Get it done by 12:30 or else I'll have you strapped to a pole naked in a room full of gay men," Jiraiya threatened. Naruto, after hearing that last part, quickly began doing his push-ups, doing 10 per minute. 30 minutes later. Naruto was sprawled out on top of the head of the yondaime where he and Jiraiya were training. "Good, you finished the warm-up exercise," Jiraiya said. Naruto sat up and was slack-jawed. "That was the warm-up?" He yelled so loud that the people down below heard it. Jiraiya nodded. "Now for the real thing, you have to run 10 laps around Konoha at full speed, then give me 300 sit-ups, then we'll go to Team 7 training grounds where you will run up and down the largest tree I could find in that area 50 times, and then you will stand up on top of the flowing river near the bridge at the training grounds for 1 hour. By then you should have completed course 1 of 5 for the physical part of elemental fusion, and then we'll do as much courses we can do by sunset, and then we'll eat, use the bathroom if needed, and then sleep and get ready to complete the 5 courses. Now Akuzo/go Naruto, Akuzo," Jiraiya urged. Naruto paled at what he had just heard. All that was 1 exercise. He would dead from exhaustion by the time this was done. Naruto then got up from his break and then began to finish course 1. He finished course 1 in about 3 hours and came back to Jiraiya at the top of the monument looking like a dehydrated human who had just done exercises that would have killed said human if he weren't a ninja. "Right, here, drink some water and then take a half-hour break and then we'll continue. At this rate you'll finish in about a week and a half, give or take a few days," Jiraiya said. Naruto guzzled down the water as if his life depended on it, which it did, and then sighed in satisfaction, and then by the end of the half-hour, he had drunk a/n, or is it drinkin' or drunken, I forget, 20 bottles. Naruto then got up and got ready for the next course of his physical elemental training. "Okay, course 2, you will do the same 700 push-ups with Gamiozo, I just made up some random name, on your back with the boulder. I had to do it every day, so you do it too, so shut up. Then you will run 20 laps around the village at full speed. The amount of laps will increase as each day passes. Then you will wear this weighted vest which weighs around 500 kilos and run through the forest and back. Then you will do water walking, and this time you will practice to run, jump, flip, walk with your hands and learn to do it so well you could sleep on the water without noticing, Jiraiya said. Naruto gulped in fear, but went to do his exercises. Jiraiya looked at his apprentice as he did his 700 push-ups. Gomen Naruto, but it's the truth, you need more physical stamina than you already have if you need to get by this training, he said to himself. Naruto had done his laps, ran through the forest with the weighted vest and then practiced the water walking exercises, and by sunset he was doing as Jiraiya had told him, and would you have it, Naruto didn't even notice he had fallen asleep on top of the flowing river which took the best amount of chakra control needed. Good night, Naruto, Jiraiya said as he slept on the ground in his sleeping bag by Naruto's river. The next day, Naruto was up at dawn and was in the middle of doing course 3, after doing the push-ups with Gamyozo on his back, which he found were getting easier to do the more he did them. He had to do some sparring with Jiraiya for the rest of the day. Jiraiya stood in a fighting stance and Naruto was in his Kitsuniken stance. Ready, Naruto? Jiraiya asked. Ready as I'll ever be, Ero-sanin, Naruto said with a grin. Then let's begin the rest of course 3, Jiraiya said. Naruto then rushed Jiraiya and cocked back his fist for a punch. Jiraiya caught the punch and flipped Naruto over his head and slammed him into the ground, but Naruto disappeared into smoke. Kagebunshin, Jiraiya thought as he blocked a kunai aimed for his head. Naruto then jumped out of the bushes with some bunshins behind him. Jiraiya punched one of them, but it fell as a puddle. He then kicked another in the stomach, but it disappeared in some swirling winds which gave the Gama-sanin a few cuts on his leg. Good use of the Kagebunshin. Never thought you could use it like that, Jiraiya complimented. Naruto grinned and rushed Jiraiya again. You can't beat me with such open attacks, Gaki, Jiraiya stated as he got ready to block Naruto's attack, but as Naruto was about to kick Jiraiya, Naruto poofed into smoke and then a large fire dragon flew through the smoke. Kyuso, Jiraiya said as he made some hand signs. The dragon was almost upon Ero-sanin until the Sanin completed his string of hand signs. Suetun, Suijin Hiki / water style, water wall, Jiraiya yelled, and then Jiraiya summoned a wall of water from the nearby river which blocked the Kagebunshin no jutsu. The /N. They're fighting at the Team 7 training grounds. Looks like you're not holding back, Egaki, Jiraiya said with a smile. Gomen Ero-sanin. But time for you to lose, Naruto said when the steam created from the dragon and wall colliding dissipated. Oh, and how will you do that? Jiraiya asked with a cocky tone. Like this? Oryoke no jutsu / sexy jutsu, Naruto cried and then transformed into the naked blonde that everyone knows and loves. Jiraiya gawked in surprise at his student and was then blown back several meters due to a super nosebleed and was knocked unconscious after colliding with an oak tree. Naruto then passed course 3. For course 4, Naruto did his 700 push-ups and then he had to wear the 500 kilo weighted vest for the whole day and then do various physical exercises for the rest of the day. Naruto then fainted from exhaustion and by then it was 11:30 p.m. Jiraiya was a little worn out himself, not from just the blood loss from his nosebleed, but also because he was having trouble keeping up with Naruto's unbelievable amount of stamina. Dear Kami-sama, this boy has so much fucking stamina, but then again his father and mother had it, so I guess it's genetic or something. I just hope the Gaki's children don't get it or else Konoha is doomed. It would be stronger, but doomed nonetheless, Jiraiya thought and then fell asleep. The next day, Naruto did his daily 700 push-ups and then got ready to do the other torturous exercises that his sensei was supposed to give him. Alright, Ero-sanin, what are we doing today? Sparring 100 laps around Konoha at full speed. Stand up on a waterfall or something. What? Naruto asked, eager to finish the final course of physical training to finally attempt elemental fusion. Okay, Naruto, your final exercise is to do an exercise given by the boss of the animal you have chosen as a summon, and in your case it would be Kyubi, so ask him what you have to do, Jiraiya told him. Well, Kyubi-san, you heard the man. Give me something to do, Naruto thought to the fox. Kyubi sat in the meadow that is Naruto's mind and tapped his claws on the ground as he thought for something for Naruto to do. Then Kyubi smiled evilly as he got an idea. Okay, Kit, your exercise to be done is to summon my eldest daughter, Suki, and then race her until you beat her. But I must warn you, she is the strongest of all my kits, Kyubi told the blonde. Naruto looked at Jiraiya and told him what Kyubi told him to do. Well, kitsunes do tend to be quick in order to do their mischief, so I would take what Kyubi said to heart, Jiraiya replied. Naruto nodded and then bit his thumb. A small bead of blood oozed out as Naruto formed the hand signs. Kuchios no jutsu, Naruto yelled, and then slammed his palm on the ground. "Suki," he added. A plume of smoke appeared, and then a kitsune about twice as tall as Jiraiya and had 5 tails swishing behind her. Suki had orange fur like her father, but had white paws and her tails were tipped with white, and she also had green slitted eyes like her mother Saiyan. Suki looked around and spotted Naruto. "Are the summoner of us kitsune and Tusan's Jinchuriki?" Suki asked. Naruto nodded. "I can sense you have a pure heart. I think Tusan made the right choice picking you," Suki said with a large grin that made her look a bit like Kyuubi. "So what does Tusan want?" the orange and white fox asked. "Well, you see, I'm learning how to do elemental fusion, and in order to do it I need to be ready physically, and the last exercise is to an exercise given to me by the summons boss, and in this case is Kyuubi, and he told me to have a race with and keep doing so until I can beat you," Naruto explained. Suki was surprised. "You're learning elemental fusion? Sugoi. Now I know Tusan made a good choice," Suki said. "Okay, let's race. But I should warn you, I'm fast." "Well, we'll see about that," Naruto said in a confident tone. The forest outside Konoha. Naruto and Suki were side by side, their legs tense, ready to take off running at a moment's notice. Jiraiya stood in between them and was to tell them when to go. "Okay, the rules are simple. First one to run from here to that oak tree way away down there." Jiraiya began pointing to a giant tree a few kilometers away. "And back wins." The boy and Kitsune nodded. "Are you both ready?" Jiraiya asked. Once again the boy and fox nodded. "On your marks," Jiraiya said. Naruto and Suki tensed their legs. "Get set." The boy and fox glared at one another before looking back at the tree of victory. "Go!" Jiraiya shouted, and then in a huge boom and a large dust cloud due to them breaking the sound barrier, they took off towards the oak tree. Suki had a huge lead and Naruto looked as though he was going a bit slower as they ran, and Suki looked like she wasn't even breaking a sweat. "Time lose, little boy," Suki said with a vulpine grin, looking back at Naruto, and then took off in a burst of speed and then seemingly disappeared. Naruto kept running, but had an astonished look on his face. She wasn't even running full speed. Naruto grinned, well, neither was he. Naruto then blurred, and when he reached the tree, Suki was already halfway back. "Kyuso, I'm gonna lose," Naruto said through gritted teeth and sped off. Suki looked behind her and saw Naruto a good number of meters behind her. "I win," she said to herself as she crossed the finish line. Naruto followed a few seconds later and was breathing hard. "Wow, Kyuubi wasn't lying about you," Naruto said with a smile, but then fell on back as he rested on the ground. Suki wasn't even breathing hard and was swishing her 5 tails in victory. "Well, what did you expect? You think Tusan lies?" Suki said. "He never lies. Except for jokes," Naruto chuckled and then got up. "Let's go again," Naruto said. Suki smiled. "Oh, already in a hurry to lose," Suki said. "Yeah, right. I plan to keep racing until I win. Now let's race." The boy and Kitsune then took off. They raced at least 6 more times, and in all those 6, Naruto lost. Naruto laid there on the ground at Suki's feet. "Naruto, Naruto, Naruto, you just can't beat me. Not even if you got faster in a million years," Suki said with a cocky tone. "Oh, well, you see, I was holding back so that I could get used to this 500-kilo vest I was wearing," Naruto said, grinning as he removed the vest and dropped it in the ground. With a small boom, a 3-meter-wide crater was formed with the vest in it. "I see," Suki said with a calm look, but what she was really thinking was, "Oh my god, what the fuck? This boy has been running with 500 fucking kilos on him. No wonder he was so slow. Kyuso, I'm gonna have to step up my game for this one." "Are you ready, Suki? Because this time victory is mine," Naruto said, flashing the Kitsune his trademark foxy grin. "Keep dreaming, human, but you'll never defeat this Kitsune." The moon was glowing in the sky, casting its glow as though it were liquid silver upon the forest, just outside the gates to the village of Konoha. An old man with long spiky white hair emerged from the forest depths, and with him was a young 13-year-old blonde-haired boy followed by a 5-tailed Kitsune about the size of a small car. "Told you, I'd win," the boy said to the fox. Yeah, you don't have to rub it in my face," the Kitsune replied. "Well, seeing as how my exercise I finished, I guess you can go home now, Suki," the boy said. "Suki," the Kitsune nodded. "Johnny/goodbye, Naruto-kun," she said and disappeared in a poof of smoke. Naruto stares at the spot where the Suki left and turned to Jiraiya. "Well, Ero-sanin, elemental fusion starts tomorrow, and I still have a few weeks left before the finals," Naruto said. Jiraiya looked at his student and smiled. Well, so it seems, Gaki. You finished that training faster than I ever could, Jiraiya said. He then ruffled Naruto's spiky golden locks. I'm proud of you. I might even consider taking you on as my full apprentice, Jiraiya said. Naruto looked up with a smile. Well, then I'd better start getting serious then. Nay, Ero-sanin? Jiraiya looked at the boy. Well, time to get some sleep, Gaki. Training starts tomorrow, Jiraiya said, and then poofed away. Naruto looked up at the shining silver moon and smirked. Training is gonna be fun, he said, and then sped off to his apartment to get some sleep. Next day, 7:00 a.m. Hokage Monument atop Yandame's head. Okay, Gaki, you've mastered the physical and mental training for elemental fusion, so now, time to start the real thing, Jiraiya said. Hi, Naruto replied eagerly. Okay, so the first part of elemental fusion is to focus the two elements you want to combine into each hand respectively, watch, Jiraiya explained. Jiraiya then focused some wind chakra into his right hand and then water chakra into his left. Now, Naruto, I just focus some water chakra into my left and wind into my right. Now when I form hand signs and apply the chakras, they will mix and form the sub-element Hyo/Ice, such as Hyojin Hiki no Jutsu/Ice Wall Jutsu, Jiraiya said as he formed the hand signs. Then wind started to swirl into shape in front of Jiraiya, but then water started to condense from the air and mixed into the wind. The wind then started to cool the water to extreme levels below 0 degrees Celsius, and then the water froze and a wall of ice was formed. All this happened in a span of 3 seconds. Naruto was astonished and began to start, but froze before looking back at his mentor. Oi, Ero-sanin, do I have to use a limited amount of chakra to perform the jutsu, or can I just use any amount I feel necessary? Naruto asked. Jiraiya pondered the question for a moment, tapping his chin in thought. Well, I never really paid attention to how much chakra I use for these Hyoton jutsus, so I would say you could use any amount you feel is necessary, Jiraiya replied in a sage-like nod, and then channeled the wind chakra into his right hand and the water into his left and performed the hand signs. Inoshishi, Tora, Tori, Hibi, Ryu. Hyoton. Hyojin Hiki no Jutsu/Ice style. Ice wall jutsu, Naruto yelled. Then a wall of ice formed, but the process was slower, taking Naruto an exact 5 minutes for the wall of ice to become fully constructed. Well, at least you can form, but now work on the speed of making it, Jiraiya told his student. Hi, Naruto barked back and began practicing his ice wall. 1:00 p.m. Hokage Monument atop Yandame's head. Jiraiya had fallen asleep watching the Gaki practice 3 hours ago, and saw that Naruto had managed to form the wall in 4 minutes. Although it wasn't as fast as Jiraiya's, but at least he made progress. Then Jiraiya heard a voice whisper to him. Ero-sanin, the voice whispered. Jiraiya muttered something incoherent and then fell back asleep. Ero-sanin, the voice said a bit louder this time. Jiraiya's eyes then opened halfway, but then his eyes became heavy and he fell back asleep with a bit of drool leaking from the corner of his mouth. Oi, Ero-sanin, Naruto yelled. Jiraiya awoke with a start, kunai drawn. Huh, what are we under attack? Don't worry, Naruto, I'll get him, Jiraiya said in a lazy tone. Jiraiya then became fully awake when he heard the sound of laughter. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes as he turned towards a laughing Naruto. Oh man, Ero-sanin, why you should have seen your F-face, Naruto said, struggling to breath from laughing so hard. I hate you, you know that, Gaki, Jiraiya said through gritted teeth. Ah, don't be like that, Ero-sanin, you know you love me, Naruto said with his foxy grin. Just shut up and stop calling me that, Jiraiya commanded. Stop calling you what, Ero-sanin? Naruto said in an innocent voice, knowing he was annoying the toad hermit. Jiraiya then took out a rubber ball and destroyed it with his chakra in order to vent out his anger. Naruto was like, whoa, how'd you do that? Jiraiya then looked at the blonde with murder in his eyes. Naruto, just show me the Hyojin Hiki so I can teach something else, Jiraiya said. Killer intent flowing in each word he said. Naruto became very scared and nodded. He channeled the cutting-edge Kaze/wind chakra into his right hand and swirling winds then appeared around said hand, and then he channeled the cool flowing Mizu/water chakra into his left hand and blue clear water engulfed his left hand. He then formed the hand signs and yelled the name of the jutsu. Hyoton. Hyojin Hiki no Jutsu/Ice style. Ice wall jutsu, he said. And then in a span of 10 seconds the ice wall was created in all its crystalline glory. Naruto grinned and then clapped his hands and the wall of ice broke and shattered into a million pieces before somehow evaporating into the atmosphere. Nice job, Gaki. Now to teach you the Yotan Jutsu / lava-style jutsu, the Gamma Sanin said. Naruto was shocked. Lava style, OMG, that sounds so cool and destructive. Teach me. Teach me Arrow Sanin, Naruto said, jumping up and down like a year-old getting his favorite toy. Alright, the same principle applied for Yotan Jutsus as it does for the Hyotan Jutsus and all other sub-elemental Jutsus, except that for Yotan you use high/fire and Tsuchi/earth chakra. But unlike ice, the Yotan Jutsus are very destructive, and even the littlest amount chakra generated can create a destructive jutsu, Jiraiya explained. So, I guess that means I need to control the amount of chakra I use to make these techs? Naruto asked. Jiraiya nodded. Good, he said. At least you understand the concept. Now I will teach you your very first lava jutsu, he said. Naruto instantly became excited. Jiraiya then looked at a tree that just happened to be atop the Hokage monument. Jiraiya then took a deep breath and then concentrated as he flowed burning high chakra, shown by his hand catching on fire but not burning, into his left hand and hard dense Tsuchi chakra into his right, and then his right hand became encased in a glove of earth. He then formed the hand signs Tora, Tori, Ryu, Inu, Inoshishi, Saru, Tora. Jiraiya then took another deep breath and blew a stream of lava from his mouth towards the tree. Yotan. Kawa no yo / lava style. River of lava, he said. The tree then burst into a flame as though it had been set with dynamite, and the excess lava then began to melt the ground below. Jiraiya then froze the lava with a high-level Hyotan jutsu and clapped his hands as the frozen lava cracked and dissipated. Jiraiya looked proud at his handiwork and looked down at his pupil. Well, go ahead and try it, my little Gaki, Jiraiya said. Although Naruto grew to a remarkable 5 feet 3 inches due to eating healthier, he was like a little dwarf compared to Jiraiya. Naruto nodded and channeled the high and Tsuchi chakras into his right and left hands respectively. He then formed the hand signs and took a deep breath. Yotan. Kawa no yo / lava style. River of lava, he yelled. But unlike a giant river like Jiraiya's, a little trickle flew out of Naruto's mouth. All was silent for that little trickle as it created small holes in the stone of the Yonadaim's head. But that silence was short-lived as Jiraiya started to burst out in a fit of laughter. OMG. Oh, Kami-sama. Naruto, that was pathetic, Jiraiya said as he clutched his stomach in laughter. Naruto then walked over to the laughing Jiraiya and stood towering over him, killer intent flowing of him and his eyes a blood red with slitted pupils. Jiraiya stopped laughing and looked at Naruto and saw Naruto's left leg moving in a kicking motion, but was too low to block as Jiraiya let out a silent scream. Naruto had just kicked him in the balls, and judging by Jiraiya's now grabbing his balls in pain and the Gamma Sanin now crying, I'm guessing it hurt. A lot. Don't laugh at me. It was only my first try, Naruto said with a growl. Jiraiya looked up to apologize, but he was suddenly speechless because from the angle he looked at Naruto, he could have sworn that the Yondaime himself was standing before him. Jiraiya then sighed and got up, which was rather difficult for him after being kicked hard in the tenders. Gomen nasai. Naruto, go ahead and try again, Jiraiya said. Naruto muttered a hi, and then formed the hand signs again, and this time a larger stream of molten earth spewed out of Naruto's throat and covered a large area and began to melt everything it touched. Naruto and Jiraiya smiled at the progress Naruto made. But then that pride turned to panic as the Yondaime's head started to melt at an alarming rate. Jiraiya used a Hyotan. Hyobakufu no Jutsu / ice style. Ice explosion jutsu, which stopped the lava and literally destroyed it, and Jiraiya then used a high-level Doton jutsu to fix the damage done. Kyuso. Gaki Didi, don't ever use that again when in training, Jiraiya said, panting like a dog. Naruto chuckled sheepishly. Hihi, gomen nasai, Arrow Sanin. Guess I need to control my chakra more, he said. Like hell you do. But first you must learn the Mokutan / wood style jutsus, Jiraiya said. There's more, Naruto said in surprise. Jiraiya nodded and then told Naruto how to form Mokutan jutsus. Okay, Naruto. In order to form the Mokutan jutsus, you must fuse Mizu and Tsuchi chakras, he said. Naruto looked confused. Mizu and Tsuchi, but wouldn't that make mud Arrow Sanin? He asked. Jiraiya shrugged. Hey, I didn't understand it either. But then again, nobody really does except for the Rakuto Sanin / Sage of Six Paths, he said. Naruto looked at Jiraiya with a puzzled look. Who's the Rakuto Sanin? He asked. I'll tell you after the Chunin exams. But now get to work on mastering Mokutan, and then I'll be teaching you jutsus for the rest of the month, Jiraiya said. Hi, Arrow-sensei, Naruto said. And stop calling me a pervert, Jiraiya added. Naruto shrugged and then channeled Tsuchi and Maizi chakra into his right and left hands respectively and then looked at Jiraiya. What hand signs do I form? He asked. Jiraiya looked at Naruto. Oh right, the hand sign. I totally forgot, he said. Naruto sighed as he released the chakras from his hands to observe what his perverted mentor had to teach him. Okay, so you do as you had just done, focusing the water chakra into your left hand and the earth chakra into your right hand. Then in order to perform Mokuton no Jutsu, you use the Hibi sign, Jiraiya said as he clasped his hands together and yelled the name of the jutsu. Then a pillar of wood rose up from under the layer of rock which made the Yandame's head. Oh great, I'm gonna have to fix this again, he said looking at the spot where his wood pillar rose from. Well Gaki, let's go to your training grounds to do this because I hate fixing this damn monument over and over, the Gama Sannin complained. Naruto nodded and then he and the Gama Sannin shunshined to Training Ground 7. Training Ground 7 to 3 p.m. Okay Gaki, show me that Mokuton Jutsu, Jiraiya said. Alright Ikuzo, Naruto said. He then channeled Tsuchi chakra into his left hand and Mizu chakra into his right hand. Naruto then clasped his hands together to form the Hibi hand sign. Here we go, Mokuton. Mokuton no Jutsu / with style. With style Jutsu? /N. I don't make these names. Masashi Kishimoto does. A pillar of wood, about 15 meters high, rose up from the dirt and stood strong before a measly little wind blew it down. Oh Gaki, you got the height and formation, but you need to work on density, do it again, Jiraiya said. Hi, Naruto replied. Naruto kept repeating the Mokuton no Jutsu over and over and over again until finally, in the end, a stiff 17 feet tall wooden pillar stood proud. Jiraiya then performed a futon de tapa to test the pillar's strength, and would you have it, it fell down after a minute. Good job Naruto. You've mastered the art of elemental fusion, Jiraiya said. Naruto was silent before yells of victory were heard from the Jinchuriki's mouth. Yada! I did it! I did it! He yelled before glomping the perverted hermit. Domo arigato ero sannin, he said. Jiraiya was surprised by Naruto's show of affection, but then gave a smile that a father would give to his son. Do itashimashite / you're welcome. Gaki. Now let's celebrate with some food. We haven't eaten for the whole day, Jiraiya suggested. I know just the place, Naruto said. Please don't say Ichiraku ramen. Please don't say Ichiraku ramen, Jiraiya prayed to Kami. Ichiraku ramen, Naruto yelled. Nu! Jiraiya yelled to the sky. The last time he went there was with Minato and he ended up paying for a whopping 29 bowls. I always wonder where that ramen goes, Jiraiya said to himself as he reminisced about his time at the ramen stand with Minato. Aero Sannin, Naruto said, waving his hand in front of the Gama Sannin's face. Jiraiya was snapped out of his reminiscing and looked at his disciple. Ha, what Gaki, Jiraiya said. Naruto grinned and grabbed Jiraiya's hand and raced off to Ichiraku's. Come on, we gotta go, and also, you're paying, ha 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 ha, Naruto said as he dragged the great, revered Gama Sannin through the streets of Konoha no Sato. Kyuso, no way Gaki, pay for yourself. You hear me, you pay for yourself, he said. But in the end Jiraiya ended up walking out of the ramen stand with an empty wallet. I'm starting to hate Orioke no Jutsu, Jiraiya said to Naruto as they walked to Naruto's apartment. Yeah, Naruto replied. There was silence as they walked. The lights of Konoha were starting to dim, a sign that it was time to sleep. Ano / Ero Sannin? Naruto asked, looking up at the taller Shinobi. Jiraiya looked down at his student. Yeah, Jiraiya answered. When will you actually make me your apprentice? Naruto asked. Jiraiya was shocked as he looked at the shorter blonde. He never really thought the Gaki would remember that. But it was true, Naruto was like a second son to him, just like the Yandame. I don't know. I guess I'll know when the time comes, Jiraiya answered back. Naruto nodded. Well, we're here. See you tomorrow for training. Jiraiya-sensei. Naruto then dashed up to his apartment room and shut the door. Jiraiya looked at the spot where Naruto just stood and smiled. He just called me sensei, Jiraiya said as he walked to the Hokage tower to talk with his old sensei. He really called me sensei. I like that kid, he added before sunshining to the tower. Chapter 13. Finals begin. Naruto versus Neji. The sun was shining high in the sky. People were gathering towards the arena of Konoha where, finally, the finals of this year's Chunin exams were to take place, and the great Kazekage himself was coming from Sunagakure to see his children fight. S/N. Children equals Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro, and our favorite blonde Jinchuriki was walking along the road to the arena, but decided to take a detour. Training Ground 7. Naruto walked into the area where he and his teammates, now family, first met as a team and graduated to become genin. Naruto was walking when he heard a noise that sounded like a palm against wood. Naruto walked closer to the noise until he saw Hinata-chan, Naruto said. The raven-haired Hyuga turned her head when she heard her name. Naruto-kun? She said, blinking her pupilless eyes at him. Naruto then ran towards the girl and hugged her. Hinata-chan, thank Kami-sama, you're all right. I thought you were still going to be hospitalized, he said excitedly. Hinata giggled. Naruto-kun, you know it's going to take more than a few fatal shots to keep me from seeing you kick Niji's ass, Hinata said with a smirk. Hinata-chan, what bad language you use, he said, wagging his finger in a teasing way before being interrupted by a sudden kiss on the lips courtesy of Hinata. Hinata then stepped back and looked at the dizzy-looking Uzumaki Naruto. For luck. Not that my Naruto-kun needs it, she said, and then ran off to the stadium. Naruto grinned his foxy grin and followed his girlfriend to the stadium. Konoha Arena. The stands were packed and were busy talking. Quite loudly, I might add, about who would win and placing bets on their fighters. In the Hokage's box, Sarutobi Hiruzen watched as the competitors lined up on the large field below. The layout of the field was mostly dirt with some large layers of grass here and there. There was a small cluster of trees surrounding the outlining of the dome-shaped arena, and the top was nothing but the cool, crisp air. Sarutobi then noticed some movement out of the corner of his eyes. Ah, Kazekage-dano, what a pleasant surprise, the Hokage said with a smile. The Kazekage was dressed in robes like the Hokage, but it had blue instead of red on it and the kanji for wind instead of fire on the hat. Oh please, the pleasure is mine, the Kazekage replied as he sat down in the seat next to Sarutobi. Sarutobi then got up to say his speech. Arena floor. Naruto looked around him and saw all of the competitors, all except Sasuke. Kyuso, Sasuke and I. Don't tell me Kakashi's lateness got to you now, Naruto thought. Don't worry, kid. I'm sure he'll come. Probably just wants to make a dramatic entrance, Kyubi said. Naruto sighed before looking up at the stands at all the cheering people. Then they all quieted down when the Hokage began to speak. Naruto smiled. Ah, Gigi, you really know how to get people's attentions, Naruto whispered to himself and smiled a bit more when he saw Hinata in the stands sitting next to Izumo and Kotetsu and Kiba. Welcome one and all to this year's Chunin exam finals featuring the best of the best in a fight to see who can accomplish the task of becoming champion of the tournament and obtain the coveted rank of a Chunin, Sarutobi said. The people cheered loudly. Now let the finals begin. He finished and then sat back down as the cheering of the crowd got louder. The Jonin to judge the matches, Shinranogama/N. I think that's his last name, looked at the competitors. Okay, rules are simple. The fight is over when I declare it's over or if one of you dies. Also a word of good luck to all of you. Now the first match, Uzumaki Naruto versus Hyuga Niji. These two competitors stay here on the field while the rest of you go and sit wherever you want until your name is called, Genma said. Sakura, Gaara, Kankuro, Temari, Shikamaru, Shino and Chuji all went upstairs to sit while Naruto and Niji remained on the field a few feet away from each other and glared into each other's eyes. You look like you have something to say, Niji said. Yeah, Naruto replied. Like I said in the Forest of Death, I'm gonna kick your ass for hurting Hinata-chan like that, he said. Niji smirked. You cannot defeat me. Fate denies your ability to win, Niji said in a confident tone. We'll see about that, Naruto said. Genma then jumped back. Hey Jaime, he shouted, and the start of the first match began. Naruto then made a cross-shaped hand sign to signify the use of his signature jutsu. Kagebunshin no jutsu, he yelled, and 5 Kagebunshins poofed into existence. The clones then each drew a kunai and charged with a battle cry. Niji activated his Byakugan and saw that he couldn't tell which clone was the real Naruto since their chakra was all evenly distributed in each bunshin. Guess there's only one way to find out, Niji said. He then blocked the punch of one clone and threw it into another. The clone skidded along the dirt, but didn't poof away, for Naruto learned that the more chakra put into a bunshin, the longer it will survive. Niji then spun and delivered a palm strike to a bunshin about to attack him from behind, and then he jumped and did a backflip, kicking off the face of a bunshin, making it disappear before rotating his body and kicked 2 bunshins in their faces, making them dispel as well. Niji then finished of the other 2 by striking them with a juken to the stomach. So he strikes the Tekensu using his juken and uses the Byakugan in order to hit those Tekensu with pinpoint accuracy. This is gonna be a difficult battle, Naruto said as he tried to come up with a plan based on the knowledge received from his clones. Well, he's a smart one, Izumo said from up in the stands. Yeah, Kagebunshin is a Jonin rank jutsu, and also he used it in the way it was originally designed for, to gain information. I say we've got ourselves a chunin already, Kotetsu said. Hinata, who was sitting nearby, heard this and smiled happy that Naruto had already been nominated for chunin. Kiba, who was also sitting nearby, grinned, happy for his friend. Well, I'll just have to better. I mean, if the class dope can go from 0 to hero in a matter of months, I can too, Kiba said. You can't beat me, you fool. Surrender now and you could keep your dignity after you lose. My Byakugan shows me that is your fate, Neji said. Naruto looked confused. Demo, how can I lose if I don't surrender? And if I do, how can lose my dignity after losing to you if you haven't done anything to make me lose it? It's all very confusing, Naruto said, scratching his head. Neji was pondering this as well. Because I said so shut up and let's fight, Neji said, getting tired of thinking. Naruto laughed. Looks like that Byakugan of yours can't see everything, Naruto said. Neji glared and then in a burst of speed struck Naruto in the heart. Everyone gasped a killing blow so early in the match. The daimyos present shook their heads. They had hoped for more of a fight. Then something happened that nobody expected. Naruto looked up with blood dripping from his mouth and was smiling. That smiling then turned into a chuckle, and that chuckle became full-blown-out laughter. Naruto's finally lost, said Ino to Sakura. Sakura just grinned. No, it's not that. When he laughs like a maniac, it just means his plan has been set. Neji will lose now, Sakura said. Then everybody heard those fateful words from the mouth of Uzumaki Naruto. Kagebunshin Daibakufu / exploding shadow clone, Naruto yelled. Then the Naruto in front of Neji started to glow, and then grabbed Neji's arm in a strong grip. Neji tried to get the Bunshin to release him by shaking his arm, but that didn't do any good as his Byakugan showed him that the chakra in the Kagebunshin began to come together at the core of the clone. Neji was then forced to show his trump card. Hakusho. Kaiten / 8 trigrams. Rotation, Neji yelled as he expelled chakra from all his Tekkensu and began to spin at high speeds. The Bunshin continued laughing for as soon as Neji started spinning it said the words that struck Neji to the core. Too late, boom! It yelled, and then an explosion that had the power of a few sticks of dynamite occurred, and then a huge mushroom cloud was blown upwards into the air and a powerful gust of wind blew throughout the stadium. In the Kage's box, Sarutobi was awestruck. Where did he learn that? He said. From me, a voice said. Sarutobi turned in the direction of the voice and saw the familiar face of his student. Jiraiya, the old man exclaimed. Jiraiya grinned. How's it going, Gigi? He said. The smoke had finally cleared, and there stood a smiling Uzumaki Naruto. But there was something else that surprised them. Neji was also standing and appeared completely unharmed, everywhere except for his right arm, which was now covered in second-degree burns. His hair slightly singed and his face covered with dust, and his right sleeve was completely blown off. Oh, Neji, you look a bit banged up, Naruto said teasingly. Urasai, I took precautions in case this might happen, and it's a good thing I did, Neji said with a smirk. Neji's left hand was then covered with glowing green chakra, and then his left hand passed over his entire right arm, and in a span of 1 minute it was completely healed. Naruto's smile had disappeared. Well, that was unexpected, you using a healing jutsu, Naruto said. Wow, this battle is getting intense, Ino said. Who knew Naruto knew such a powerful jutsu? She added. And Neji having the ability to heal since he looks more like a combat-oriented person, Sakura added. Naruto-kun. Be careful, Hinata said quietly to herself. Wow, that was unexpected. The Hyuga learned some new tricks, Jiraiya said. Sarutobi grinned. Now this is getting interesting, he said. Well, Neji, guess I have to bring out one of my many secret weapons, Naruto said, getting serious. Oh, really? And what fate tell is your secret weapon? Neji said. Naruto grinned. This, Naruto said, and then he formed a cross-shaped hand sign. Taju Kagebunshin no Jutsu, he yelled, and then an army of over 1,000 clones appeared. Neji was surprised at the sheer number of Kagebunshins. You can't beat me with those things, Neji said, and then rushed into the mob of Bunshins, destroying them left and right. But then Naruto did something unexpected. He tripped Neji, and then Neji fell flat on his face and was introduced to his new friend, the ground. That was your plan, Neji said as he wiped the dirt from his face. Tripping me like a child. Well, it was this child that nearly blew off your right arm, Naruto countered. Neji became silent, but then once again rushed the army of Narutos before finally hitting one in the heart. The others instantly dispelled, and the Naruto that was struck began to bleed profusely from the mouth. Since you just don't know when to give up, I'll end it for you, Neji said. Naruto looked up and grinned again. I guess I'm just a sore loser, Naruto said, and then fell to the ground. Neji smiled while Naruto's friends in the audience gasped. It's over, Proctor, Neji said to Genma before turning. But then he heard the all-familiar sound of a poof of a Kagebunshin dying. Neji quickly activated his Byakugan, but was too slow as two Narutos punched in the face. Blood came from Neji's burst lips as he was once again hit, but this time in the chin from a triple kick from 3 more Bunshins. Neji was sent sky high. Another Naruto then appeared and delivered a swift spin kick to Neji's stomach, sending him into a face full of fist from another Kagebunshin who had jumped from a nearby wall. Then another Kagebunshin who had jumped up using chakra head-butted Neji. Neji was bleeding profusely from his face and was bruised heavily and was at least 20 feet off the ground. The original Naruto then shunshined above the damaged Hyuga and delivered the finisher, the classic axe kick. Kitsune Rindan, Naruto yelled as his foot came into contact with Neji's face. Neji then fell to the ground and formed a crater a few feet in diameter. It's over, Jiraiya said, but was once again surprised when the Hyuga crawled out of the crater, his wounds healing, but slowly from being beaten up so much. That was one of my secret techniques, Naruto said and then chuckled. But it seems I'm not the one who doesn't know when to quit. Neji gasped as he got into a stance unknown to Naruto. Naruto then felt his whole body freeze. Naruto looked at Neji, who was almost out of chakra from healing so much. You are within my field of hack, he said. Hack Rokujion Sho /8 trigrams 64 palms, Neji said. Neji then rushed the frozen Naruto, striking 2 of Naruto's Tekensu. 2 palms, he said. Naruto gasped in pain as his Tekensu closed shut. Neji then delivered 4 more strikes, shutting down 4 more of Naruto's Tekensu. 4 palms, 8 palms, 16 palms, Neji yelled as he continued his onslaught of relentless attacks. 32 palms, Neji said. Naruto was trying not to scream, but found it hard to do from being hit so many times. 64 palms, Neji shouted as he delivered his final set of blows, the final one being a strong and powerful one that sent Naruto flying back several feet and rolling on the ground. Neji gasped for breath as he took out a chakra replenishing pill and chewed it. Naruto was on the ground, clutching his stomach in pain. Kyuso, 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 he said. Naruto then gritted his teeth as he struggled to get up. I can't lose here, not when I've made it so far, Naruto said. Kyubi, now I need your chakra now, Naruto thought. Naruto waited for a response which he got in the form of a rushing feeling through his body. Naruto grinned. Arigato, he whispered. Naruto then rose to his feet, which surprised every Hyuga that had come to see Neji fight. Impossible, he shouldn't be able to get up after that attack, and what is this red chakra that is, if it is chakra? Neji said. Up in the stands, Hyuga Hayashi, Hinata's father, watched in surprise. It's the Kyubi's chakra, no doubt about it, but it lacks the feeling of bloodlust and killer intent from that night, Hayashi thought. Jiraiya, you taught the boy how to use its chakra, Sarutobi said. Jiraiya shook his head. Nope, the boy has a sort of bond with the fox and can therefore access its chakra in certain situations, Jiraiya replied. Now go on, Gaki, show these people here not to underestimate you. Naruto then looked at Neji and his eyes flashed red for a second as the Kyubi's Yukai surrounded his body in a silhouette that looked like a tailless kitsune. You lose, Neji, Naruto said as he shunshined in front of Neji's face. Neji was too surprised to react and therefore was kicked in the stomach and sent flying into the wall, creating a Neji-shaped imprint. Neji groaned as he tried to get up due to the pain. Then Naruto appeared in front of the damaged Hyuga. What are you? Neji asked, for as he looked at Naruto, he saw the image of a fox laughing at him that originated from the core of Naruto's chakra network. Me? Naruto said. I am the person who's going to avenge Hinata and someone who will prove to you that fate doesn't control people's lives, like those branch members in the Hyuga who have the seal of a caged bird, Naruto said, his eyes getting soft at the last part. Now allow me to show you my newest jutsus, Naruto said as he made 3 Kagebunshins. The Kagebunshins then focused their chakras and made their respective hand signs. The original Naruto jumped away to enjoy the show. Mokuton, Jibaku Iso / wood style, wood binding jutsu, 1 Bunshin yelled. A dense pillar of wood then rose from the ground and encircled Neji before closing the small space between human and element, thus immobilizing the Hyuga. Everyone in the stands were astonished. No one had seen a Mokuton jutsu since the Shodame Hokage. Sugoi, a Mokuton jutsu, Izumo said as he scribbled down notes on his checkboard. I know, right, that's it, it's official, Uzumaki Naruto is made Chunin Kotetsu added with a grin. Hinata squealed with joy at hearing her boyfriend becoming Chunin. Did you hear that, Kiba-kun? She said, turning to her teammate. Kiba turned, still shocked at seeing Naruto perform a new jutsu. Hear what? He asked. Naruto had been made Chunin, she said with a foxy grin. A sign she has been hanging around with Naruto a bit too much. Kiba was flabbergasted. He was made Chunin. Then I gotta do some more training, Kiba said. The second Naruto Kagebunshin also finished his hand signs and then took a deep breath. Yotan. Yo Umi no Jutsu / lava style. Lava wave jutsu, it yelled. Then after applying only a small bit of chakra, a stream of lava was spewed out of the Bunshin's mouth, forming a puddle. But then the puddle started to move and started to increase in velocity, getting taller as it moved. Then a 6 feet tall wave of lava crashed down onto Niji. Everyone in the stands recoiled as if the wave had at them and hissed as though they had felt Niji's pain. Niji then screamed as the lava hit him, but Naruto had controlled the temperature to only give him first-degree burns. Then the final Kagebunshin finally finished his string of hand signs and took a deep breath, and then a huge dragon of ice flew out, its wings glittering in the sunlight as it sped towards Niji. It let out a roar, and then as soon as it made contact with Niji, there was a flash of blue light, and then Niji stood in a pillar of ice, his face frozen in the expression of extreme pain shown on his face. Naruto snapped his fingers and the ice pillar collapsed, and a shivering Niji was there. Hayatan. Hairyuenden no Jutsu / ice style. Ice Dragon Blast Jutsu, he said. Give up? Naruto asked with a grin. Niji nodded and then fainted from the cold. Medic Nin instantly ran up to the field and looked at Naruto oddly before taking up the damaged Hyuga to the medical room. The crowd was silent for a while. Genma grinned and raised his arm. Shousha / winner, Uzumaki Naruto, Genma shouted. Then cheers erupted from the audience as they clapped for our blonde Jinchuriki. Naruto's Kagebunshins poofed away as he looked at the cheering crowd before him. But then he realized something. They were cheering for him, the demon. But now he was no longer Uzumaki Naruto, the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi. He was now Uzumaki Naruto, the winner of the first round of the Chunin exams. Naruto grinned before jumping around and sending out kisses in the air. All right, Naruto, his friends yelled as he came up the stairs. Sakura and Hinata hugged him. You did awesome, and I-san, Sakura said. Hinata then gave him a kiss on the lips. Told you would win, she said with a wink. Shikamaru patted him on the back and told him, You did a good job out there, Naruto. I still going to try and kick your ass, Kiba added. Shino nodded in respect towards the blonde, and Ino and Chuji just slapped on the back and told he did well. Naruto grinned at the praise he received and then at down. Hey, wait, where's Sasuke and II? He asked Sakura. Sakura blinked. She was so wrapped up in Naruto's match she forgot all about Sasuke, which is kind of hard to believe. I really don't know, I mean his match is next, Sakura said. Naruto and Sakura began to grow worried for their missing teammate. The other Rookie 9 members just sat down and began to discuss other things like if Sasuke's match will be as spectacular as Naruto's. At the Kage's booth, Sarutobi began to grow worried for the Uchiha prodigy. Then a Jonin appeared next to the old Hokage. The Jonin had a large number of veins that were visible across half of his face. Hokage-sama, there is no sign of Uchiha Sasuke. If he doesn't show up quickly, he will be disqualified, the Jonin said. Sarutobi took a puff of his pipe. I see. Well, I guess I can't deny the crowd their fights, so I guess I'll just to disqualify him, he replied. Then the Kazekage intervened. Pardon me for eavesdropping, Demo. I believe most of the people here are here to see the young Uchiha prodigy fight my son. I mean, who doesn't want to see the fight where the last Uchiha battles a Kage's son? I mean, that's the main reason I came here, the Kazekage said. Sarutobi took another puff of his pipe and looked at Jiraiya, who was down in the stands congratulating Naruto on his victory. Oh, all right, I guess I can delay his match for a few minutes, he said. Good. Now let's just move on to our other matches, Kazekage said. The Jonin who told Hokage-sama the message then relayed the information to Genma. I see. Okay, Genma said, and the Jonin shined away. Okay people, there will be a slight intermission for the second match. But if Uchiha Sasuke doesn't show up by the time these other matches are over, he will be disqualified, so we will now move on to the other matches, Genma shouted out to the crowd. The crow then started to groan. We all came to see the Uchiha fight, most of them complained. Okay, will Aburame Shino and Kankuro please come down to the arena, Genma said. Kyuso, If I reveal Karasu/Crow's mechanisms so early to the enemy, we'll be in big trouble, Kankuro thought. I forfeit, he yelled. Shino rose his eyebrow, /N. I always wondered how to do that. Okay then, Aburame Shino is the victor. Next match. Temari versus Nara Shikamaru and then Haruno Sakura versus Akimichi Chuji, he said. Temari gave a snort of annoyance and then flew down on her fan. Looks like you're eager for a fight, he said. Temari ignored him and then looked up at Shikamaru. Shikamaru sighed and then muttered, troublesome. But then Naruto pushed him off the railing. Go get TM buddy, Naruto said as poor Shikamaru fell on the arena floor. Itai, Shikamaru muttered. Temari then rushed Shikamaru with her fan in hand. Shikamaru looked at her and then drew 2 kunai. Temari then slammed her fan down onto the spot where Shikamaru lay. When the smoke cleared, Shikamaru stood on his 2 kunai which he had managed to wedge into the wall and stand up on to avoid her strike. Although I don't want to fight, I can't upset the fans and lose to a girl for that matter, so I guess I'll have to fight, Shikamaru said. Shikamaru then jumped away and made the Nezumidoshi/rat sign. Kagemane no jutsu/shadow possession jutsu, he yelled. His shadow then extended to attempt to control Temari. Temari noticed this and then jumped to dodge. She avoided it, but when she looked up, Shikamaru was gone. You seem to be good at hiding, she said with a grin. Shikamaru hid behind a tree and tried to think of a plan. Well, if you won't come out willingly, I'll drag you out, Temari said. She then opened her fan all the way, revealing the 3 moons imprinted on it. Kamaitashi no jutsu/wind scythe jutsu, she yelled and swung her fan with all her might. A huge amount of cutting-edge wind blades flew towards the cluster of trees where Shikamaru was hiding and nearly blew them down due to force and speed of the winds. Shikamaru covered his eyes as a huge amount of dust was kicked up. Kyuso, this woman is going to be the death of me if I don't something, he said. After the winds died down, Shikamaru stepped out from behind the tree and then went up to the edge of the large shadow created by the sun's angle to the arena. Shikamaru then performed Kagemane no jutsu again, and his shadow raced across the arena floor to Temari. Temari continued to hop backwards as his shadow extended longer and longer, trying to bind her. But the shadow halted after a while. Temari grinned. So that's the limit that his shadow can reach, she said. Shikamaru then sat on the ground and made a hand sign. Kurenai, who was sitting next to Asuma, for obvious reasons, looked at the boy with a puzzled look. What hand sign is that? She asked Asuma. Asuma took a smoke from his cigarette. It's not a hand sign, it just means he's making up his plan. Whenever we played shogi together, he always made that sign when he was in a pickle. That's why I could never beat him, he said. A plan? But I heard he got even lower grades than Naruto, she answered. Asuma grinned as he took another pull at his cigarette. That's just because he was too lazy to pick up his pencil. But one day I had given him an IQ test and told him to do his best just this one time, Asuma said. Kurenai looked at him. What was his score? She asked. His IQ was a whopping 200. The boy's a fucking genius, he replied. Kurenai's ruby orbs widened. 200, what the hell? She whispered. Shikamaru then rose up with a smirk on his face. He's going to make his move now, Asuma said with a smirk. Shikamaru then went back behind his little tree. Kamaitashi no jutsu, Temari yelled, and the miniature typhoon sped across as it intended to slice Shikamaru to bits. She then his behind her fan to make a bunshin to distract him, but then she felt her body freeze. She looked down and saw her shadow was connected to something. Kagemane no jutsu, success, Shikamaru said. How did you do it? She asked. Shikamaru made Temari walk in front of her fan and made her head look up, and there in the sky was Shikamaru's overshirt, tied with a kunai, and then her head was moved downwards to see that his shadow was connected to the mini parachutes which was connected to hers. Shikamaru then walked towards her and then he released the Kagemane and then held a kunai to her throat. It's troublesome, but I guess I win, Shikamaru said in a bored tone. The crowd then began to whisper among themselves as Shikamaru was walking back to the stairs. Naruto then jumped in front of him. Good job, Shikamaru, but why do you look so beat up? He asked. Shikamaru sighed and then told Naruto to go back up and watch the match between Sakura and Chuji. Naruto then walked back up the wall to his teammate to wish her good luck. Good luck, Chuji, Shikamaru called to his best friend. Chuji nodded and gave thumbs up. He and Sakura then jumped down to get ready for their match. Amazing, he managed to make up a plan in all that action. I think he's smarter than the Uzumaki boy, Izumo said from the stands. Yeah, I mean, if we had him and the Uzumaki on a team, they could be able to make plans to improve our mission success rate and the survival rate as well. I think we got a second Chunin, Kotetsu said. Izumo nodded as he scribbled on his checkboard. Arena field. Sakura shook Chuji's hand and smiled. Don't hold back, Chuji? Sakura said. Same for you, Chuji replied as he stashed his bag of chips in his pocket. Okay. The match between Haruno Sakura and Akimichi Chuji, Gamma yelled. Hey Jaime, he finished. Sakura then jumped back and threw a few shuriken. Chuji took out a kunai and countered the 5 shuriken and then formed the Torai sign. Bubenbaika no jutsu / partial expansion jutsu, Chuji shouted, and then his entire right arm grew larger. Chuji then swung his gigantic fist at Sakura. Sakura jumped back and then formed some hand signs. Katan. Gukakyu no jutsu, she yelled as a fireball flew from her mouth. Chuji's arm then did the most unexpected thing. Chuji had swung it and then demolished the ball of heated oxygen. Wow, that's pretty cool, Chuji, Sakura said. Chuji smiled. Arigato, Sakura-san. I've been training pretty hard for this match, he said. Sakura grinned and then took out a few more shuriken and threw them. Chuji jumped to the side to avoid them. But then the shuriken took on a pinkish hue, and then they changed their course and headed back for Chuji. Chuji's, as well as everyone else's, eyes widened at that. Wow, Naruto exclaimed. She pulled of a controlling seal mixed with a power enhancement seal and fused them into the shuriken, he said. The rookies minus Sakura. Chuji looked at Naruto oddly. How do you know that? Ino shouted her question. Naruto revealed his foxy grin. I've been taking lessons on Fuins/seals with Ero-san in here, he said, pointing at the white-haired man beside him. Jiraiya turned towards Naruto. Kyuso. Gaki, how many times have I told you not to call me that? Jiraiya said. Naruto counted his fingers before saying, 1298 times. Ero-sanin, he said. You actually counted? Jiraiya asked. Naruto shrugged. There's nothing to do when I'm in my spare time after training, so I tried to recall the amount of times you yelled that question at me, the whiskered blonde replied. Back with the fight. Chuji was too slow to dodge a few of those shuriken, which hurt like a bitch as about 7 of the 20 were lodged in his back. That's a new one, Chuji said as he removed the shuriken from his back and throwing them on the ground. Arigato, Demo, watch this, return, she said. The shuriken on the ground that had missed and that Chuji threw along with the ones lodged in Chuji all flew back to her. Chuji winced in pain due to the shuriken being removed from his body. The shuriken flew back to their master and hovered in front of her in a circular pattern. Chuji then used Baika no Jutsu and then followed up with Nikuden Sensha. The rolling human boulder then sped towards the pink-haired girl. Sakura jumped out of the way and began to form hand signs. Genjutsu. Kokwanjio no Jutsu/Genjutsu. Infinite Darkness Jutsu, Sakura yelled. Then Chuji stopped rolling and reverted back to normal size. He then saw he was trapped in darkness and it was so dark he couldn't even see his own hand in front of his face. Genjutsu, Chuji guessed. Chuji then formed the hand sign for Kai, but nothing happened. Chuji then heard Sakura's voice. Gomen Nasai Chuji, but this is a Jonin level ranked Genjutsu and can only be released when the user calls it off or if the user is damaged by the victim, she said. Sakura, outside the Genjutsu of course, looked up into the stands and mouthed a thank you to Kurenai. Kurenai just smiled and nodded. Sakura then turned back to Chuji, who looked like he's stumbling around through the arena to those who didn't know it was a Genjutsu. Sakura then grabbed Chuji and held cold steel at his throat. Gomen, Chuji, Demo, I win, she said as she released the jutsu. Chuji blinked his eyes to adjust to the light and looked at his neck and saw a kunai hovering near his jugular. No problem, Sakura-san. Good fight though, he said as he turned to shake hands. Sakura had already let down the kunai and smiled. You too, Sakura said and shook his hand. The crowd cheered as they shook hands. Shousha, Haruno Sakura Gunma said. The crowd cheered even louder. Then in the middle of the arena, a huge whirlwind appeared and the scattered leaves on the ground and joined in the wind made Kaiten. Then the wind died down and there stood in the center of the arena a young 13-year-old boy with spiked black hair and onyx eyes wearing a black t-shirt with the Uchiha fan on the back and long black shinobi pants, and the entire area of his arms were covered in something that looked like a cast from his shoulder to his elbow, and the rest was covered in bandages, standing next to a silver-haired jonin who was reading a copy of Aika Aika Paradise. Gunma grinned, shifting the senbon in his mouth. Hey, what's your name? He asked, although he knew the answer. The raven-haired boy smiled. Uchiha Sasuke, he said. Sasuke isn't late, is he? Kakashi asked. Genma looked at his pocket watch. No, and by the looks of it you just made it, Genma said. See Sasuke if you hadn't been. Kakashi started. Shut up, sensei, we agreed that would be a secret, he said. Naruto and Sakura then ran up to the raven-haired boy and hugged him. Sasuke and you came. I was beginning to think you had chickened out, Naruto said with a smirk. Sasuke smirked as well. Hiya, right, and judging by your attitude, I'm guessing you kicked Niji's ass, he said. Naruto beamed. You know it, he said, giving a thumbs up. Oh yeah, Sasuke. Naruto continued, his voice getting serious. Sasuke turned. What? He asked. Don't lose because I want to fight you too, Naruto said. Sasuke smiled. You got it, he said. Sakura then gave him a kiss for luck, and then Gaara appeared in a swirl of sand and wind onto the battlefield. Kakashi then left with Naruto and Sakura to the stands. Okay. Uchiha Sasuke versus Sabaku no Gaara, Genma said. Sasuke tensed his legs and Gaara just stood there with his arms folded, his eyes boring into Sasuke's skull. The crowd then started to cheer. But that noise became softer as Sasuke and Gaara only focused on each other and the voice of the proctor. Hey Jaime, and with that Sasuke rushed Gaara ready to kick his ass to Timbuktu. Sasuke then cocked back his fist and let it fly, but Gaara's sand blocked it. Sasuke then jumped back and threw a few shuriken, but the sand caught it and then morphed to form a Kagebunshin. Sasuke grinned and then in a burst of speed appeared behind Gaara and punched him in the face. Sasuke then appeared in front of Gaara and was about to punch Gaara again. Gaara then looked at Sasuke and noticed something. Your movements are just like Rock Lee's, he said before getting punched again, and his Suna no Yoroi/sand armor cracked in many various places. Mato Guy and Rock Lee, who had arrived a while before, looked surprised. Guy looked at Kakashi. He's as fast as Lee with his weights on, but why focus only on speed, Kakashi? Guy asked, turning to his eternal rival. Kakashi just answered with, it was necessary for a certain jutsu I taught him, as he looked on at the fight. Guy gritted his teeth and returned to watching the fight as well. Gaara then began making fists out of his sand and sent them to attack Sasuke, but the young Uchiha just disappeared again, and then continued with a large amount of merciless blows to Gaara, causing pieces of his armor to break off. Gaara then started to get desperate and released his most powerful defensive jutsu. Gaara then managed to kick Sasuke away and then formed a few hand signs. Suna no Domu/Sand Dome, Gaara said. The sand in Gaara's gourd then completely flowed out and encased Gaara. Sasuke's Sharingan then activated and then sped towards Gaara as part of his face was still visible, but Sasuke was too late, and by the time he reached there, the sand completely covered him, and if it weren't for the Sharingan, Sasuke would have been skewered, for spikes had shot out nearly impaling him, but managed to cut his cheek. Sasuke then jumped back. Kyuso, Gaara, you're gonna ruin the plan, Kankuro said. But Temari shushed him. Shino, who wasn't noticed, had picked up on this and raised his eyebrow in confusion. What plan? He thought. Sasuke had tried to attack the dome from many angles, but the sand spikes kept appearing. Sasuke then decided it was time to reveal his secret weapon. Sasuke then jumped onto the arena walls and formed the hand signs. Ashidoshi/ox, Usagi/rabbit, Saru/monkey, and then Sasuke grabbed his right wrist with his left hand, and then chakra surrounded his hand. The chakra appeared to look like lightning, and the light from the chakra reflected off of the Uchiha prodigy's eyes, making him look a bit evil. Sasuke then slammed the lightning-covered fist into the wall and dragged it on the way down the arena wall at full speed. Showing off the power of his attack, a chirping sound could be heard from the attack. Guy looked surprised. You taught him that? Guy asked the copy Nin. Kakashi nodded. That's why I had him work on his speed, and the best way to do it was to remember Lee's movements, he replied. Sakura and Naruto looked at the two jonin. Kakashi-sensei, what is that jutsu? Sakura asked. Yeah, the chakra is completely visible, Naruto added. Guy then chose to answer the question. This move is the only original jutsu Kakashi had ever created. It is formed by using lightning chakra to supercharge the flesh and produce the lightning-covered fist, and there is so much chakra used for this jutsu it is completely visible. It has also been nicknamed Raikiri/lightning blade since Kakashi had once slashed a lightning bolt with that move. Once this jutsu is activated, it turns the user's arm into a killing machine that can cut through anything, but is usually used for assassination purposes. The power of the attack mainly comes from the force and speed of the arm thrust, which is why it requires a high amount of speed in order to be done. The chirping sound you hear sounds like the chirping of 1,000 birds, and that is why the name of this jutsu is called. Guy paused as he saw Sasuke plunge the attack through Gaara's sand sphere. Chidori, 1,000 birds, Guy finished. Gaara then looked down and felt something warm and liquid coming from his shoulder. "Oh, I'm bleeding. It's my blood, ah!" Gaara screamed. Kankuro and Temari were shocked. Gaara had actually bled. Sasuke's eyes widened and then removed his hands from the sphere, and then a clawed hand with an arm covered in blue veins was followed with Sasuke's hand, who quickly used Chidori again to shock it off. The arm then retreated back, and then Sasuke saw a golden yellow eye with 4 blue stars outlining the iris. Sasuke's eyes widened as he felt the blood lust coming off from just the eye. In the stands, some random guy was watching this happen, but then fell asleep. Then everyone began to fall asleep too. Everyone except all the shinobi present. It was a genjutsu. Then in the Kage booth there was a large explosion, and then the Kazekage jumped off with the Hokage onto the roof, and then 4 people surrounded the 4 corners of the roof and formed a purple barrier to prevent anyone from entering, and then created a similar barrier around themselves to protect themselves. The Umbu Black Ops were unable to break through, so Jiraiya went up to see what he could do. Kankuro and Temari jumped to Gaara's aid and jumped to the forest. Naruto and Sakura jumped down. "Are you all right?" they asked the frightened Uchiha. Sasuke got up and shook his head to clear it of the bloodlust he felt. "Yeah," he replied. Genma then blocked a kunai sent to them by Baki, Gaara-sensei, with his senbon. "Go and chase after those 3, you guys. You 3 are already Chunin level, so go and help your village, because starting right now this is war," Genma said. The 3 nodded and then made chase. "Hello, Sarutobi-sensei," the Kazekage said, and then the Kazekage peeled off his face to reveal it was really Orochimaru in disguise. Sarutobi's eyes widened. "I see you've perfected that kenjutsu," he said. Orochimaru chuckled. "Yes, I have, so now time for you to die," the snake said. Sarutobi jumped away and then removed his Hokage robes to reveal the battle armor he had worn during his prime. "Oh, I see you've prepared for this. Well then I guess this means war," Orochimaru said, getting into a fighting stance. Then master and student clashed once again on the field of battle. Chapter 14. Oto and Suna vs. Konoha. In the forest. Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura were chasing after the Suna trio at full speed and were catching up quickly. Kankuro looked behind him and noticed that. He then handed Gaara over to Temari. "You take him, I'll hold them off," he said. Temari was shocked. "But Kankuro, you could be killed," she said. Kankuro groaned. "Not now, just go now," he shouted, and then removed Karasu from his back. Naruto and the others halted and prepared to fight, but then they heard a new voice. "Naruto, you and the others go on ahead. He is my opponent after all," Shino said, stepping out of the shadows. "Shino, arigato, you handle him," Naruto said, and then Team 7 leapt after Gaara. Kankuro tried to stop them with Karasu, but Shino's Kikai bugs intervened. "Your fight is with me, remember," Shino said. His arms swarmed with the chakra depleting beetles. Kankuro glared and prepared for a fight. In Konoha, Sandaime and Orochimaru. Orochimaru ran towards the Sandaime Hokage, forming hand signs, the old Hokage doing the same. Sarutobi threw a shuriken and then completed his hand signs. "Keichuriken no jutsu/shadow shuriken jutsu," he said. Then that single shuriken became 100 as the numerous amounts of shuriken sped towards the Hibi Sannin. "Too slow, old man, Doton. Dorihiki no jutsu/earth style. Earth wall jutsu." The Hibi Sannin cried, and then a wall of mud and earth came out of his mouth and blocked the stars of steel. Then Orochimaru sensed movement behind him and saw the Sandaime quickly forming hand signs. "Doton. Kawa no do/earth style. Mud river," the Sandaime yelled, and then a stream of mud spewed out of his mouth. Orochimaru was swept away by the river, and then Sarutobi formed more hand signs. "Doton. Doryuden no jutsu/earth style. Earth dragon bomb," he said, and then a dragon formed out of the mud and roared as it sped towards Orochimaru. But then Sandaime also formed a Karawendin which merged with the mud dragon, forming a flaming mud dragon. The flaming reptile collided with the Hibi Sannin and set him ablaze, and then Orochimaru turned into a pile of mud. "Kawarimi no jutsu. You always did excel at that," Sandaime said, turning towards Orochimaru who had appeared behind him. Orochimaru chuckled. "Well, I did learn from the best, Sarutobi-sensei. Kukukuku," the Hibi Sannin chuckled. The Umbu outside were shocked, as well as the Gamma Sannin, who was trying to find a way to break the purple fire barrier while keeping an eye on the fight. Sugoi, who knew in his old age, Hokage-sama could pull off such high-level jutsu, the one in the panda mask said. The white-cloaked one nodded, /n. Umbu that wear white cloaks are Umbu squad leaders since all the others wear black cloaks. Sarutobi then performed another Keichuriken jutsu, but then Orochimaru formed some hand signs the old Hokage didn't recognize. Kinjutsu, Kuchios Edo Tensei / Forbidden Jutsu, summoning impure world resurrection, the snake cried. Then one coffin rose from the tile roof. Ichi/1 Orochimaru said. Then a second coffin rose. And I/2 Sarutobi's eyes widened as he now realized what this jutsu was doing. He then tried to focus his chakra and stop the third coffin from being uplifted, but he was too late. San/3, the Hibi Sannin cried in victory. Sarutobi gasped, he was too late to stop them. The coffins opened and there stood 3 men. Jiraiya and the Umbu gasped when they recognized the men that stepped out of the coffins. It can't be it's you, it's... Sarutobi was at a loss of a complete sentence. With Naruto. Naruto and his teammates jumped through the trees as they followed Gaara. Temari started to become exhausted and she stopped. She then opened her fan and performed a Kamaitachi no Jutsu. The winds of destruction flew towards the 3, but then the 3 made simultaneous hand signs. Katan Gukakyu no Jutsu, they yelled. 3 mighty fireballs appeared and the wind of the Kamaitachi powered up the fireballs' already intense flames. The fires then merged to form an even bigger sphere of flame as it sped towards Temari and Gaara. Then Gaara's eyes shot open and his Suna no Yoroi cracked off, and then a large explosion of sand engulfed the fireball, depriving it of the oxygen needed to keep burning. Team 7 shielded their eyes to prevent sand from interfering with their vision. The sand explosion died down and then they saw something that didn't expect to see. Naruto's as well as Sasuke's and Sakura's eyes became as wide as dinner plated, for standing before them was Gaara. But the entire right side of his body was covered with blue-veined sand that was shaped like a tanuki's body, and instead of Gaara's green eyes now in his socket was a golden yellow eye with 4 blue stars located at the 4 corners of his iris. /n. I know the eye is circular, but what else can I say? Gaara, is that you? Naruto asked. Gaara looked at the young blonde, drool coming from the sand boy's possessed demon half-mouth. Uzumaki Naruto and you too Uchiha Sasuke, I will kill you both. He roared, and then with surprising speed he launched himself at the trio, and Temari was forced to hide from her own younger brother, who was now in an unstable state of mind. Gaara kept trying to hit the Genin trio, but couldn't and was beginning to get very annoyed. Sakura then attempted to cast her Genjutsu on the Ichibi host. It seemed to work because Gaara was looking around wildly trying to find them. Sasuke and Naruto used this opportunity to fire a Kagebunshin at the boy. Gaara then roared, expelling golden yellow chakra and shattering the Genjutsu. Sakura used chakra to stick her feet to the ground so as not to be blown back by the shock wave of wind. Naruto and Sasuke followed suit and then used the wind to their advantage as they fired off their most powerful Katan. Kagebunshin no Jutsus. The wind intensified the flames as then the dragons morphed into a larger fire dragon. Gaara turned to see the dragon, but was too late to block it, and then a huge explosion was heard throughout the forest. Naruto and Sasuke panted. They had put everything into that attack, but they gasped in surprise. There stood Gaara, but his entire right arm, which was sand, had turned to glass. Sakura took this opportunity and then threw an exploding kunai, completely shattering the arm, and Gaara to scream out in pain and also become damaged from the explosion, and then his sand began to become less stable. More power. I need more power. Sand then surrounded Gaara in large amounts, and then there stood a complete miniature version of the Ichibi no Shikaku. Gaara gave a roar and then sped towards them at surprising speed. Sasuke then jumped in front of Gaara, a Chidori blazing in his hand. Sasuke then thrust the ball of chakra and lightning, completely severing Gaara's left arm. Sasuke then remembered what Kakashi said. Flashback. Okay Sasuke, it seems you can do about 3 Chidoras before you can be exhausted, Kakashi said. What will happen if I form another one? Sasuke asked, panting. Kakashi closed his little orange book. You cannot force the jutsu, for if you do you can become completely exhausted of chakra. Worst case scenario, death, Kakashi replied. Sasuke's eyes widened. End flashback. Alright, I good for one more strike, Sasuke said as the sound of 1,000 birds echoed across the woods. Stop Sasuke, you can get killed, Naruto said. Please Sasuke-kun. Listen to him, Sakura pleaded. Sasuke heard them, but chose to ignore their words and then charged Gaara once again. Gomen, Naruto and Sakura-chan, Sasuke said. Naruto and Sakura looked in surprise as Sasuke charged a Chidori at the monster known as Gaara. Gaara had turned and had already set for another strike. Lightning and sand collided, and the lightning stood on a tree branch as the victor with the chest of the sand demon with a hole in it. Gaara screamed in pain, but then laughed as the hole instantly healed. Gaara then vanished and kicked Sasuke in the stomach, knocking the wind out of him. Gaara smiled and then sent a rapid flurry of punches at the Uchiha, and then sent a final blow by hitting Sasuke with his tail. Sasuke screamed in pain as he was knocked into a tree. Sakura ran to help him, but was hit by a large mound of sand, hitting her head hard against a tree, the sand sticking her there like glue. Sakura-chan, Sasuke, and Naruto cried. Naruto was about to go into the fray, but Sasuke foolishly jumped first. Naruto then noticed something, black flame-like markings spreading across Sasuke's neck like a wildfire. The protection seal had broken due to Sasuke's anger. Then, due to the massive chakra gained by the cursed seal, Sasuke was able to form a fourth Chidori. I gotta help Sasuke and Naruto thought as he hit his thumb. Naruto then slammed his palm on the ground. Come on, Saiyan. Kuchios no jutsu, Naruto said. When the smoke cleared, the giant white kitsune wasn't there. Instead, there was a small little kitsune about the size of Gamakichi, and it was black with a single blue-tipped tail. Hello there. And who are you? Naruto asked the young fox. The young fox looked up at Naruto. Hi Narukuin, Ka-san told me about you. I'm Tenchi, the little kitsune replied. Naruto looked at the fox and smiled. Well, just stick with me, Tenchi, and you'll be safe from the monster, he said, pointing at Gaara. Tenchi saw Gaara and then nodded and jumped onto a nearby branch. Die, demon! Sasuke shouted and let his Chidori fly. But Gaara was prepared this time and then grabbed Sasuke's wrist and flung him into the same tree, making a Sasuke imprint. Sasuke fell to the ground and the curse mark left him, and his body failed to respond due to the fatigue. Naruto looked at Gaara with hate in his eyes. Gaara, you must be stopped, Naruto said, and then formed the known cross-shaped hand sign. Kagebunshin no jutsu, he yelled, then 20 Narutos poofed into existence. Uzumaki, I will kill you. Gaara screamed with a sadistic look on his face. He then noticed Tenchi and smiled, and your little kitsune too. The mini Ichibi laughed and then halted his laughter when a large wind blast hit his back. Futon. Daytapa/wind style. Great breakthrough, a Bunshin had yelled as another wind blast hit Gaara. Gaara then fired a number of missiles formed from his sand. Suna Shuriken, he yelled as it dispelled the clone. The other 19 then began to try and immobilize Gaara, but he was too much for the clones and they were all destroyed in a matter of seconds. Is that the best you can do, Uzumaki Naruto? I expected more from you, the demonic-looking boy yelled. Naruto gritted his teeth. He was tired after using so much chakra for that Karawenden, the Kagebunshins and the Futon. Daytapas. Gaara then hit Naruto in the stomach with his sandy tail, and then Naruto slammed into a tree. Blood flew from his mouth from the impact. Gaara's tail then wrapped around Naruto's abdomen, and then lifted the battered Naruto into the air before slamming him into a tree branch several times and then let him fall. Naruto moaned as he came into contact with a tree branch. I have done it, I have defeated Uzumaki and Uchiha and the pesky little girl. Wahahaha, Gaara yelled. Don't underestimate me, Naruto whispered. Gaara turned and his eyes widened. Naruto was struggling to get to his feet, and when he finally did, he was clutching his ribs and panting. What did you say? Gaara asked. Naruto looked up, and instead of the normal electric blue eyes, they were slitted black pupils and blood-red irises. I said don't ever underestimate me, Naruto yelled. He then formed the ram sign, and then a large cloud of blue chakra surrounded his entire body. The amount of chakra being released was so intense. Sakura and Sasuke woke up to see their blonde brother surrounded by the immense amount of chakra. How could he be channeling so much chakra? Sakura asked herself. Damn you, Naruto. How could you keep on fighting? I need more power, Sasuke said with anger and lust for power. /N. Sasuke's returned to the dark side. Naruto then formed his famous cross-shaped seal. I will not allow you to run rampant anymore, Gaara. You will not harm Sasuke and Sakurane and Tenchi, he said with killer intent. Taju Kagebunshin no jutsu, he yelled, and then there was a gigantic cloud of smoke. The smoke cleared to reveal what was more than 1,000 Kagebunshins. Wow, that's a lot of yous, Narukuin, Tenchi said to a Kagebunshin. Okay guys, Akuzo, he said. The Naruto charged, Gaara destroyed a few, but their numbers overwhelmed him. Then one Bunshin managed to hit Gaara with a kunai in his ass. Konoha's secret taijutsu, 1,000 years of death, the Bunshin cried. It then jumped away and told its brethren to back off. Sasuke and Sakura sweat dropped. That's Konoha's secret taijutsu, how pathetic they thought. But then an explosion occurred as an explosion tag went off and there stood Gaara moaning in pain. He struck the base of the tail where it was weak. How did he know? Gaara groaned. Then one Bunshin came and kicked Gaara in the chin, sending upwards. Then 3 more kicked him. You, they yelled. Ziyu, 3 more yelled with their kicks, sending Gaara higher. Ma for clones kicked Gaara as he went up higher. Ki, the final 5 yelled, kicking Gaara even higher. Naruto Yansen Renden / Uzumaki Naruto 4000 hit combo. The Bunshins yelled as they all punched Gaara and sand flew everywhere from the impact of fist upon sand. Sugoi, Sakura said. Sasuke was fuming and returned to the brooding asshole he was. The dobe has attained too much power. I must get that power for myself to kill him, Sasuke said with venom in his tone. The clones gasped due to focusing so much chakra into their punches in order to deal more damage. Then there lay a big glop of sand that was Gaara, the mini Ichibi. He's forced me to go to full power. Time to reveal my final form, Gaara said. A huge amount of sand then once again washed over Gaara. Then the sand started to grow and take on a physical form, the form of a tanuki. Naruto, Tenchi and the others watched in horror as they saw the true form of the Ichibi no Shikaku, and there on Shikaku's forehead, like a little pimple, was Gaara, panting from exhausting so much power in order to fight. Time for you to die, Uzumaki Naruto, Gaara yelled, and then some sand was launched from the tanuki puppet and wrapped itself around Naruto. Sabaku Q, Gaara said sadistically. Naruto then closed his eyes as he and Tenchi, who was hiding in Naruto's shirt, were about to be crushed. Hey Kyubi-Tusen, I need some chakra, Naruto said. You got it, Kit, Kyubi replied. The Naruto was encased in his silhouette of chakra, making him look like a tailless kitsune. Naruto then formed hand signs and then slammed his palm down on the tree branch he was on. Kuchiosa no Jutsu, Kyubi no Kitsune, he yelled, and then the Sabaku Q was completely obliterated, and then a large poof of smoke appeared, and then the smoke cleared to reveal a red-furred 9-tailed fox. The fox let out a howl. Oh yeah, I'm big. I'm bad and I'm back, people, Kyubi said as he howled, finally being able to breathe fresh air. Hi Tusan, Tenchi said to her father. Kyubi looked up when he heard the voice of his youngest kid. Tenchi, is that you? Yup, Tusan, Tenchi replied with a smile. Narukuin wanted to summon Kasan, but he accidentally summoned me, and then that big tanuki thing, he tried to kill me and Narukuin. But Narukuin had beat him up real good, and now he's bigger, and now you need to beat it up, Tusan, Tenchi said in one breath, and then took a big gulp of air after doing that. Kyubi narrowed his eyes at the tanuki puppet. Oh, he did he? Well, I'm gonna kick that team's ass, Kyubi growled. Gaara then performed the forced sleep jutsu, and then Shikaku was released into the world with a cry of, yes, I'm back, woohoo. It yelled in a Texan accent. Naruto looked at Kyubi with a puzzled look. I know, Kit, he's a bit weird when he's happy, the giant fox demon said to his Jinchuriki. A little weird, try completely psychotic, Naruto said. Tenchi nodded with Naruto's words. With Orochimaru and Sarutobi. No, it can't be you 3, the Sandaime said in disbelief. There before him stood 3 of Konoha's most powerful ninja. The one of the left was wearing red samurai armor and had long black hair. On the right was a white-haired man with 2 red marks on either cheek and was wearing blue samurai armor, and finally the one in the center. He was wearing a standard jonin outfit and wore a long flowing white cloak, with spiky blonde hair on his head, and they all wore Konoha Hitaites. Hello, Sarutobi, they all said in a monotone. It's good to see you 3 again, Shodaime Hokage, Nidaime Hokage, and Yandaime Hokage, Sarutobi replied. The Umbu and Jiraiya were all shell-shocked. There stood before them were the creators of Konohagakure and the greatest Hokage to ever live. It's not possible. How did he accomplish this? Jiraiya asked with tears in his eyes at seeing the face of his treasured pupil. He then looked at the Yandaime and noticed he was different from the others. The Yandaime was the only one whose eyes had their irises, but the other 2 looked like zombies. Sarutobi then voiced Jiraiya's question. Why is Minato's body different from the others? He asked. The Hibi Sannin chuckled. Well, you see, I haven't completely mastered the art of returning the dead to the land of the living. But I learned that in order to bring back a body completely back used insane amounts of chakra and I had only enough for one body. So that is why the Namikaze Minato's body is complete flesh and blood while the other two are just souls trapped in a host body. Their bodies are made out of dirt and other types of matter. Well, Saru, I guess we must fight on the side of evil, the Shodame and Nidame said. But Yondame just looked around surveying his surroundings. He then looked at his hands to see if really was alive. He pinched himself and felt pain. Yup, he was back all right. Aren't I supposed to be dead? He asked himself looking at Sarutobi. Everyone's sweat dropped. In a time like this, that is what Minato would say. Yup, it's Minato all right, clueless as ever Jiraiya said. Minato then looked and saw the Shodame and Nidame and gasped. Okay, I know that you too are supposed to be dead, Minato said. The sweat drop grew bigger on the back of everybody's heads. Orochimaru then decided to end the little comedy routine by removing 3 kunai with mind-controlling paper seals wrapped around the handle. He stabbed the first and second Hokages. But then Minato turned and caught Orochimaru's hand, preventing the induced mind control. Gomen Orochimaru. Big mistake in bringing me back, and in fact your plan is about to fail because I see that the Kyuubi is fighting your little trump card. Ichibi, he said looking behind Orochimaru. Orochimaru and everyone else turned to see that there stood the Kyuubi and Shikaku squaring off. Has the seal been released? Sarutobi asked. Minato and Jiraiya shook their heads, but Jiraiya answered. He got the Kitsune contract so now he can summon Kyuubi to do battles like this one, he answered. Say, how is the little Gaki Ero Sanin? Did the village listen to my final wish? Minato asked with a smile. The people remained silent. I see, but at least the Gaki had a chance to get some friends and look at that, he can summon the Kitsune clan, how about that, Minato said. Orochimaru seemed to have gotten even paler. He looked around the village and saw that there were more dead Suna and Oto Nins than Konoha ones, but at least he had his plan B. Orochimaru then took a whistle out of his pocket with his free hand and blew it, but no sound came from it. The wind blew as nothing happened for a while. Hebe team, what was that for? Minato asked. Wait for it, Minato-kun. Ah, there they are, Orochimaru said happily. Then 3 humongous anacondas burst through the village gates and began destroying everything in their path. Jiraiya then got up and leapt away to destroy them. Minato then jumped away and landed beside Sarutobi. Ready to lose, Orochimaru team, Minato said. Orochimaru glared at the blonde Yondame. Not yet, go my pawns, he said to the zombie Kages. Then the 2 controlled Kages raced towards the other 2. Minato and Sarutobi smiled. Ready, Saru? He asked. Sarutobi looked back. Oh yeah, let's kick some ass. Old friend, he replied, and then the battle of Hokage versus Hokage began. Gaara versus Naruto. Kyuubi gave a roar as he leapt at Shikaku and then severed off the giant Tanuki's right arm. Shikaku yelled in pain, but then the arm quickly rejoined itself with the body and then Shikaku turned and took a deep breath. Futon. Rankuden/wind style. Drilling air bullet, Shikaku roared, and then exhaled a high-speed moving projectile from his mouth at Kyuubi. Look out, Tusan, Tenshi yelled. Kyuubi jumped and then landed gracefully on his paws. Hey Tusan, I think I found out a way to beat Shikaku, Naruto said. Kyuubi's ears perked up as he kept dodging the speedy wind projectiles. Well, let's hear it, Kyuubi said as he continuously tried to avoid the wind bullets. Well, you see, Shikaku was released after Gaara did that sleep-inducing jutsu, so I think that if you made a distraction and then use that to make an opening to latch onto Shikaku, I can jump on and… The boy will wake up and Shikaku will disappear. The boy has only been asleep for 3 minutes, so he should wake up with 1 hit. Let's do it, Kyuubi said with a vulpine grin. Okay, let's go. Hayatan. Hiriwenden no jutsu, Naruto yelled as his ice dragon flew out and froze half of Shikaku's body. While Shikaku was busy trying to pry off the ice, Kyuubi went in and then bit the Ichibi, thus allowing Naruto to jump off of Kyuubi's head. Since Naruto had enhanced his muscle strength with chakra, he easily jumped up to the Tanuki's forehead and then punched Gaara in the face. Wake up! The blonde yelled as he punched the red head in his face. What, no, I just got out, why me? Curse you, Kyuubi no Kitsune. The Ichibi yelled as it was once again locked away by the seal. The giant Tanuki began to crumble, and then Gaara and Naruto had managed to land on separate pine trees opposite one another. Gaara and Naruto were panting from using as much chakra and Tenshi had returned home while Kyuubi had returned back to the seal. Okay Gaara, I guess we'll have to see who wins with this final blow, Naruto said. Naruto looked at himself. His blue jacket had burst open and the black undershirt and his pant were covered with blood, grime and sweat. Gaara looked at himself too, and then he and Naruto glared at each other. They jumped off the trees and readied their final blows. With the Hokages. Minato had used his Hiraishin no Jutsu / Flying Thunder God Jutsu to make an opening for Sarutobi to hit the Shodame and Nidame with his summon Enma the monkey boss in his adamant and Nioi form. But that proved ineffective, for the zombies just kept healing themselves. Then Minato realized something. Saru, these guys are souls, we're gonna have to perform the Shiki Fuin, Minato said. Sarutobi looked at his successor and knew it was true. Look Saru, I will do it. I'll create a Kagebunshin and perform the sealing while you deal with Hibi team there, okay? It was good to see you and Jiraiya again, and tell Naruto. Minato started to cry as he was just about to die again. Tell him I'm proud that he ha become the shinobi he is today, and also, Umbu-sen, tell Jiraiya that Naruto is ready for the truth. He said. Then Minato used his Kagebunshin no Jutsu and then once again died the way he had done before, by the hands of his own jutsu, and as he sealed away the souls of the previous Hokages, he fell to the ground and Minato died with a smile. Sarutobi and the Umbu, who were never supposed to reveal their emotions, cried at seeing the Yondaime die again. Jiraiya had returned and saw that his student was dead again, and he was only back for a few hours. Prepare to die, Orochimaru. Sarutobi then rushed Orochimaru, but didn't notice that the former was making hand signs. Sarutobi was also making hand signs, and when Sarutobi finally got a good grip on Orochimaru, he was stabbed through the stomach with the Kusanagi. Enma had poofed away back to the summoning world, and then Sarutobi said those fateful words that would change Orochimaru's life forever. Shiki Fuin / Reaper Death Seal, he said. Naruto and Gaara. Naruto had won the fight as he had feinted the punch and then headbutt Gaara oh hard they both began to bleed from their foreheads. The two genin then fell from the treetops to the ground below. Gaara was moaning on the ground. He had a bleeding forehead, chakra exhaustion, and a few broken ribs. Naruto looked at Gaara and then began to crawl to Gaara using his chin since the rest of his body was exhausted. Gaara looked at the struggling Uzumaki. Why do you fight so hard, and why didn't you kill me back there? Gaara asked. Naruto laughed and stopped moving. I didn't kill you because you are no longer a threat, and I know the pain you had, living alone and having no friends, but I learned I couldn't just do that and become a sadistic killer. Instead, I forged my own path in order to get acknowledgement, and that is why I made the path that would lead me to becoming Hokage, and you are just like me, a Jinchuriki. Naruto said. Gaara's eyes showed confusion. This little knucklehead understood him and the pain he felt as a loner. As for why I fight so hard, Naruto continued. I fight so hard because as a shinobi it is my duty to protect my village and the people of that village, so if you ever threaten my home again, I won't hold back and will literally kill you, Naruto said, his pupils turning slitted as if making a point. Gaara and Naruto then both fainted. Kankuro, who had gained back his chakra after losing it all to Shino's bugs, arrived with Temari and took Gaara away, while Sakura and Sasuke came for Naruto. /N. Shino got poisoned by Kankuro and his father Aburame Shibi healed him with his bugs. End of summary for Shino fight. You did good, Naruto. You did really good, Sakura said with a smile as she and Sasuke picked him up. But Sasuke felt anger towards the blonde. The dobe had bested him again and had won a battle he couldn't. He needed the power to become stronger now. With Orochimaru and Sarutobi. Orochimaru was screaming in pain as he saw the image of the Shinigami take away the soul of his two arms, and they fell limp to his sides, never to form another jutsu again. Kyuso, curse you, old man, curse you! He screamed as he looked at the dead and smiling Hokages. The four Oto shinobi, Jonin by the looks of it, took Orochimaru and released the barrier and escaped, but the Umbu tried to go after them. But one, which had 6 arms, shot a substance like spider silk from his mouth and trapped them in a net of it. Jiraiya was too busy trying to control his emotions as he saw his best student die twice. Tears welled up in the Gama-sanen's eyes and then jumped to the ground to clear his head with a bath in the hot springs, which were miraculously not destroyed. Then the white-cloaked Umbu appeared in front of the Gama-sanin. Kabanwa, Jiraiya-sama, I have a message from Yondaime-sama, he said. Naruto is ready for the truth, the Umbu said. Jiraiya nodded. Arigato, you can go now, Jiraiya told the Umbu. The Umbu gave a respectful bow and then disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Jiraiya then let his tears fall free as he looked up at the sky and saw that the clouds made the shapes of his sensei ad student. Well, Naruto has learned about his heritage someday, and who's better to say he thinks the Gaki's ready than his own father, Jiraiya thought as he continued to the hot springs. The Sandaime and Yondaime looked down from heaven at Naruto and entered its gates, but not without one last thought in mind. Naruto, promise me you become a great Hokage and let the new leaf buds become part of the will of fire that protects our village. For tomorrow you are Hokage. I wanted to live long enough to tell him those same words. Then on the sandames, which was being carried by the Umbu Black Ops to be prepared for the funeral, a lone tear fell from his closed eyelids. And also the Umbu carried with them the body of Yondaime, Namikaze Minato, and a lone tear also dripped down his face. Chapter 15. Grief and Sorrow. It was a mournful day for the village of Konohagakure. Although Konoha was victorious in the war, they had lost the lives of many great shinobi, including their beloved Sandaime Hokage and the Yondaime once again. The people all walked down the streets to the funeral grounds dressed in all black, but no one felt more sadness in their heart than Uzumaki Naruto. The entire villages lined up as they listened to Jiraiya say the eulogy. How to save a life, the fray. Piano intro. Step 1, you say we need to talk. He walks, you say sit down, it's just a talk. He smiles politely back at you. You stare politely right on through some sort of window to your right. As he goes left and you stay right, between the lines of fear and blame. And you begin to wonder why you came. Sarutobi Hiruzen was one of the brightest men to ever come to Konoha. He was talented, strong and smart, and earned the right to be taught by the Shodaime and Nidaime along with his teammates who are now members of the council, Koharu and Hamura. Sarutobi was able to learn every single jutsu that Konoha held, thus earning the nickname, the Professor. He then became a jonin and formed Team Hiruzen consisting of Tsunade, Orochimaru team, and myself. When we became jonin, Sarutobi-sensei became the Sandaime Hokage. Jiraiya said. Everyone started to cry, and then as they cried it just happened to rain, as though Kami himself was crying at this funeral. He always used to complain about how the paperwork for the village seemed endless, which I thought was true, for whenever I went into his office he was cursing as he did his paperwork. Jiraiya said with a chuckle, but tears began to well up in his eyes. Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend. Somewhere along in the bitterness. And I would have stayed up with you all night. Had I known how to save a life. My student, Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Hokage, was brought back to life by Orochimaru's Edo Tensei Jutsu, but sacrificed himself once again for the sake of the village, in order to defeat the Shodaime and Nidaime, who were also brought back to life by the Kenjutsu. Everyone went wide-eyed at this. Yondaime had come back to life. But then after Minato had died by the Shiki Fuin, Sarutobi sacrificed himself to use the Shiki Fuin in order to kill Orochimaru, but due to his old age he was only able to seal away the team's arms, and died as Orochimaru ran him through with the Kusanagi, Jiraiya said, and then released his tears. Let him know that you know best. 'Cause after all you do know best. Try to slip past his defense. Without granting innocence. Lay down a list of what is wrong. The things you've told him all along. And pray to God, he hears you. And pray to God, he hears you. Tt that I is why I am proud to be this great man's student. A man who sacrificed himself for the sake of the village. That is what a Hokage is. Someone who is willing to risk their lives for the village. So Ttt hat I is why I believe Sarutobi the greatest Hokage, next to Minato arigato. Jiraiya sobbed and then he walked off the stage. Everyone then lined up to place their gifts along with a white rose on the deceased Sandaime's coffin and to say their own words to the man. /N. Yondaime's body was returned to his coffin, which to the ninja's surprise was empty, meaning the Yondaime was really brought back to life. The Rookie 9 and Team Guy then went up after Konohamaru, the Jonin instructors, Irika, and then entire Umbu Association. Kiba, a howling wolf statue. Shino, a dead Palos Verdes blue, the rarest butterfly in the world. Hinata, a beautiful painting she had done herself of the Hokage monument. Ino, a bouquet of cosmos from her shop. Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend. Somewhere along in the bitterness. And I would have stayed up with you all night. Had I known how to save a life. Shikamaru, a deer horn. Chuji, a bag of his favorite barbecue-flavored chips. Li, a poem about the power of youth. Niji, a statue of a bird about to leave its cage. Tenten, a fine-crafted sword made by her father. Sasuke, a glass dragon breathing glass fire. Sakura, a bouquet of sakura flowers. As he begins to raise his voice, you lower yours and grant him one last choice. Drive until you lose the road. Or break with the ones you've followed. He will do one of two things. He will admit to everything. Or he'll say he's just not the same. And you begin to wonder why you came. Then was Naruto's turn. He then performed some hand signs and then he formed a kitsune made of ice that was reinforced with earth chakra to make it sturdier. He also had Jiraiya inscribe a seal in it to have so that any body besides Naruto that touched it, it would be protected by a wall of chakra and then rested it on the Hokage's coffin. Hokage-sama, you were like a grandfather to me and I loved you like any grandson would. Naruto said, I remember when you told me you always hated that paperwork for Kages. In fact, I think I'm having second thoughts about whether I should be Hokage. Naruto joked and made a sad smile. I promise you, Gigi, I will carry on your will of fire and become the strongest Hokage ever so that I could protect our village. Arigato, for everything you've done for me. Gigi. Naruto finished, and then walked away, tears falling like diamonds on the ground. Sakura, Kakashi and Sasuke then joined him. They all had sad looks on their faces as they made their trek back to each other's respective homes. Chapter 16. Search for the Slug Sannin. Naruto was walking along the roads of Konoha, watching the workers repair the large amounts of destroyed infrastructure. Naruto sighed. Orochimaru sure did a good job of destroying the village, and in this state the village is weak in terms of defense, Naruto said to no one in particular. Naruto then sneezed and then wiped his nose with his sleeve. I wonder who's talking about me, Naruto asked himself. Konoha Council Room. You want to do what? Jiraiya shouted at the council, infuriated at their proposition. That's right, we wish to have Uzumaki Naruto banished. His fight with the Ichibi has shown that he has great power and can summon the Kyuubi, and if angered might summon it to take revenge, Koharu said. I say we don't banish the boy. He could be a useful asset to the village if I place him in my root program, the bandaged council member known as Danzo said with an evil grin. Jiraiya shook his head. No way, that boy is someone who is not to be banished or used as a tool/weapon. He's a human with feelings, Jiraiya said. And besides, the Gamma Sannin continued, he is the son of Namake's Minato, Yondaime Hokage of Konohagakure and Uzumaki Kushina, former head Umbu captain. Jiraiya said. The council gasped, shinobi and civilian alike. How do you know this and what proof do you have? A pink-haired woman on the civilian council asked. Oh come on, he has the same blonde hair, blue eyes and appetite for ramen like Minato, and he has the attitude and taste for destructive high-level ninjutsu like Kushina, Izuzuka-tsum said. Yes, it's true, Minato told me himself. I mean I was his best friend, Hyuga Hayashi said. The shinobi and civilian councils began to debate and argue loudly about Naruto's fate until Jiraiya shouted for them to shut the hell up. The room instantly became quiet. All right, we'll take a vote. Those for Namake's Uzumaki Naruto's banishment. Please raise your hands. Jiraiya stated. The whole civilian council, Koharu and Danzo raised their hands. Those opposed? He asked. The entire shinobi council, Hamura and Jiraiya raised their hands. Jiraiya grinned widely. It's been decided then. Namake's Uzumaki Naruto is not to be banished from Konoha. Now then for our next problem, Jiraiya said. Who will be our next Hokage? Nara Shikaku asked. Danzo stood up and nominated himself, but the entire council declined, saying they needed someone a young Hokage, for they didn't, although most of them did, want another elderly Hokage to die again. Danzo glared as he sat down, him old. I believe Jiraiya-sama should be our new Hokage, Koharu said. The whole room nodded. Jiraiya's eyes widened. No way. I'm not suited for that title due to my need to research, and also I have to manage my spy network, so I nominate my old teammate, Tsunade, Jiraiya said. The council room muttered a bit about Jiraiya's decision before Hamura stood and spoke. We, the council, agree with your decision, Jiraiya, Sarutobi's old teammate said. But Tsunade is not within the village and is probably nowhere near Konoha after what happened to Nawaki and Dan. So how will you find her? He continued. I'll just go out and find her, he stated simply. However, I request I be able to bring Namake's Uzumaki Naruto with me for the journey in order for me to train him in his father's jutsus, he added. The council then murmured among themselves and then the whole room nodded in agreement. Arigato, now I will leave tomorrow in order to prepare for the trek, he said and disappeared in a poof of smoke. The room then emptied out before only Hamura and Koharu remained in the room. Why did you vote against Naruto's banishment? The elderly woman asked her colleague. Hamura sighed. Because the boy saved the village, and also I would be disrespecting Sarutobi's wish to keep the boy safe, he answered. It was now Koharu's turn to sigh, and then she looked up at the clouds. Sarukuin, you really care for Naruto, don't you? She thought to the sky, and then a soft breeze blew in her face as a response. Koharu chuckled, and then she and Hamura left the room to file Sarutobi's unfinished paperwork until Tsunade arrived. Oh, it would be hell for them. With Naruto. Naruto was sitting atop the Yandame's head, overlooking the destroyed parts of the village, until he heard a poof. Hey there, Gaki, Jiraiya said cheerfully. Naruto turned and looked at the Gama Sannin. Ero Sannin? The blonde asked. What are you doing here? Can't I come to see my student? He asked, but then he got serious. Naruto, it's time I told you about your parents, he said. Naruto's ears twitched and instantly became attentive. Your mother was Uzumaki Kushina, a tall, beautiful woman with gray eyes and long red hair. She was a tomboyish girl and has that same attitude and thirst for jutsus just like you, Gaki, he said with a chuckle. Naruto chuckled a bit too. She was from the small village of Uzugakure/village, hidden in the whirlpool, and was the former head of the entire Umbu division, and possessed the bloodline to have an enormous amount of chakra and stamina, he said. Naruto nodded with a bit of tears in his eyes, but he wiped them away. Now your father was a great man. In fact, you look so much like him anyway. He was very adept at the art of Fuinjutsu and was one of the greatest shinobi in all the elemental countries. His name was Namikaze Minato, Yellow Flash, and Yandame Hokage of Konohagakure, Jiraiya said. To say Naruto was shocked would be an understatement as he looked at Jiraiya with his mouth agape. You know, I always had suspicions that he was my father, and apparently I was right, Naruto said with a foxy grin. But Kyubi-san will always be the father who raised me to be who I am today, but I will always consider Minato to be my biological father, Naruto continued. Jiraiya looked at the blonde Namikaze and smiled. So can I show my full name? He asked. Jiraiya shook his head. Gomen, Demo, your father had plenty of enemies, so there might be multiple assassination attempts and kidnappings cast upon you, Jiraiya replied. Naruto nodded. Just one question, why me? He asked. Jiraiya looked at Naruto confused. What do you mean, Gaki? I mean, why choose me rather than another child to be the vessel of Kyubi, Naruto replied. Well, Naruto, he couldn't put the burden upon any other family, and besides, you're Minato's son. Who better to be the vessel than the son of the strongest Hokage in existence, Jiraiya said. Naruto smiled. Arigato, Ero Sannin. It means a lot to me that you told me about Okasan and Tusan, Naruto said with tears in his eyes. Jiraiya smiled. No problem, Gaki. Now then, on to business. We're going on a trip to find the new Hokage, Jiraiya said. Naruto looked puzzled. Well, you see, I was nominated to be the Godame/5th Hokage, but I declined, so I asked them to go and search for my old teammate Tsunade, the slug Sannin and master of the healing arts, he said. Naruto was shocked, but then composed himself. When do we leave and how long will be gone? He asked. Jiraiya thought for a while. We'll be traveling for about a month's time trying to find the damn woman, and probably most of it trying to convince her, since Tsunade had always been so damn stubborn, and also we leave tomorrow, so pack your things, and also I'll be teaching you your father's techniques and your mother's family Kenjutsu style, he said. Kenjutsu? Naruto asked. Jiraiya then removed a medium-sized scroll from his back. This scroll is sealed with a blood seal, so only you can open it, Jiraiya explained. Naruto nodded before biting his thumb and then running it along the entire length of the scroll's edge. The scroll then opened, and then, in a poof of smoke, a sword lay on the paper surface of the scroll. The sword had a black hilt with a circular ruby that was cut with such precise and fine cuts that it looked like the Uzumaki spiral which it was supposed to form was cut by the smiths of Kamisama. But the most magnificent part was the blade, which was a deep ocean blue. The cutting edge of the blade was a darker blue and had an electric blue swirl on the tip of the blade that looked like a whirlpool, and along its length was a picture of a purple and black dragon. Then on the hilt the name of the sword was etched in gold. Ryuarashi/Dragonstorm, Naruto read, and he traced the golden kanji. Jiraiya looked at the boy and then cleared his throat to get his attention. Naruto looked up from the sword and was shown to have tears in his eyes. Look, Gaki, as cool and beautiful as that sword is, we need to get ready. Jiraiya started, but was interrupted by a hug courtesy of Naruto. Arigato, Naruto said into Jiraiya's chest. I have no idea how to repay for this, Naruto said as he sobbed in joy. Jiraiya smiled and then ruffled Naruto's hair. You can start by getting ready for tomorrow because we leave at dawn. Now go, Jiraiya said. Hi, Naruto replied and then disappeared as a black and orange blur. He's wearing orange shirt and black shorts. The next day, dawn. Naruto was sleeping soundly in his bed when he heard a tapping on his window. Naruto groaned as he wanted to sleep more. The tapping continued for minutes before Naruto got up and glared at the window to find Jiraiya standing there. Gaki, time to go. Get ready and eat some breakfast too, the Gama Sannin told his pupil. Naruto yawned before sluggishly getting out of bed and heading towards the bathroom to get ready. Naruto was completely awake after his shower and dressed in a red shirt he got from Jiraiya, which had the drawing of a two-tailed fox, and one of its tails was made into the Uzumaki kanji, and the other tail formed the kanji for Namikaze, and wore a pair of black ninja pants and umbu leg guards followed by his black ninja sandals. He then went and had a quick breakfast of cup ramen and a glass of milk before heading out the door with his backpack containing his supplies for the month-long trip. About time, Jiraiya said with a stern look. Let's go, he said, and then the Gama Sannin and the Kitsune Gaki left the village to find their new Hokage. In some random town. Two men walked into the town that Naruto and Jiraiya had stopped in order to take a break from finding Tsunade and for Jiraiya to do some research on Tsunade's whereabouts. The two men wore large straw hats which covered the majority of their faces and wore black robes with a red cloud pattern on it. Do you think he's here? The taller of the two asked, who due to his deep voice was male, as he smiled to reveal sharp shark-like teeth and had blue skin. The shorter one nodded, but he was relatively normal-looking. I can feel his presence. He's here all right, Uzumaki Naruto, the shorter one said, and then looked up to reveal the piercing red eyes of the Sharingan. Jiraiya and Naruto were walking along the road to try and see if Tsunade was here, right after they made a reservation at a hotel, of course. Naruto then realized something. He had no idea what Tsunade looked like. Oi, Ero Sannin, what does this Tsunade lady look like? The Namikaze heir asked. Jiraiya looked his student. Well, let's see. Since she puts up a genjutsu that makes her look youthful and also contain her young appearance and skills, she has light blonde hair, brown eyes, wears a pair of high heels that make her look amazingly sexy, a gray top, black short pants, and also she has one huge heck of a rack, Jiraiya said, drooling at the last detail of Tsunade's appearance. Naruto was bewildered that a woman of probably over 50 years of age had a genjutsu that by Jiraiya's standards made her look probably in her 20s or 30s. Must be one heck of a hag then, Naruto muttered, but then noticed a pretty young woman look at Jiraiya with what he could only identify as lust. Jiraiya happened to notice too and then instantly drooled as he sped over to the young woman. Mateo Ero Sannin, what am I supposed to do? Naruto called. I don't know, do something to entertain yourself, Jiraiya said as he and then woman wandered off. Naruto sighed and then headed back to the hotel. Naruto then went up to the reception desk. Konnichiwa, how may I help you? The woman at the desk asked. Konnichiwa. Yes, I reserved a room for two under the name Jiraiya, Naruto replied. The woman looked at her book and then flipped through the pages and then looked up. Ah yes, here we go. Jiraiya, you're in room number 183. Here's your key and enjoy your stay here at the Scarlet Plaza, she said with a smile. Naruto returned the smile and bowed. Arigato, he said, and then left to the room. What a nice boy, the woman thought, and then returned to her duties. Room 183. Naruto used his key and opened the door. The room was adequate, but at least it was better than his apartment room, which he should be moving out of by now since he had to gain the inheritance of his father. The room had two beds, a bathroom, a transparent glass door at the end of the room that led to a balcony that gave a view of the town, a television and an air conditioning unit. Wow, a lot fancier than my apartment, but probably would be a rundown old room compared to Tusan's estate most likely. But take what you can get, Naruto said as he dropped his bag on the floor observing the room. Well, Ero Sannin won't be back for a while, so I guess I'll just do some training with Kyubi Tusan, he said. Naruto then got into a meditative position and then closed his eyes and focused on clearing his mind. Then in a bright flash Naruto appeared in the world that was his mindscape. Naruto turned to see the large nine-tailed fox sitting as though he were expecting him. Hello Tusan, Naruto said. Kyubi looked at the boy and returned the greeting. Well Naruto, time to get cracking and summon up Saiyan and my kits. The great fox reminded Naruto of his deal. Naruto slapped his head. Kyuso, I nearly forgot. Good thing I came here, Naruto said. He then bit his thumb and focused as much chakra as he could and slammed his palm on the ground. Kuchios no jutsu, he said, and then a large poof of smoke emerged. The smoke cleared and then there stood Saiyan with a whole lot of other kitsunes, probably 15 of them each having tails ranging from 1 to 5. Touusan! The kits screamed as they barreled into Kyubi. Kyubi laughed as he was tackled to the ground by his kits. Naruto smiled, wondering if he had a family with siblings if they would treat him like that. Well, guess I'd better start training. Later Naruto said as he walked into the forest of his mind. Naruto sat down in the dense vegetation of the forest and then began to think on what he should do. He could make Kagebunshins and train in his kenjutsu, or should he train on the little project he was working on? Naruto smiled. He'll do both. Naruto then made a cross-shaped hand sign. Taju Kagebunshin no jutsu, Naruto yelled. A huge cloud of smoke filled the forest and there stood hundreds of Naruto Kagebunshins. Okay, this half work on Okasan's kenjutsu style, while the other half, you're with me for trying to make this new jutsu style, Naruto ordered. A chorus of hiss echoed across the forest and the clones set to work. A few hours later, Naruto was panting and smiled as he looked at the destruction of the forest. He had finally done it. Trees were uprooted. Leaves were lying on the forest floor from being stripped from the trees they were previously on, and then the most peculiar thing was that there were pieces of what looked like metal embedded into the trees. The Kagebunshins had mastered the kenjutsu of Kushina's and then poofed away, and Naruto fainted from the information being sent into his brain so fast in his exhausted state. Half an hour later, outside Naruto's mindscape, Naruto had woken up and was getting annoyed with how long Jiraiya was taking to get back. Kyuso, why is that damn Ero-sanin not back yet? He needs to train me in Otosan's jutsus, Naruto said to the television. Naruto then heard a knocking on the door. Finally, Ero-sanin, what took you so long? Naruto yelled in annoyance, but then his eyes widened. Instead of the perverted Gama-sanin, there were two men. One with blue skin, was smiling, revealing shark-like teeth, and had a huge sword strapped to his back. The other had raven black hair, but the huge neckband of the cloak he wore covered most of his face, and the most surprising thing was that this man had blood-red eyes, with 3 tomo in each one, a complete and mature Sharingan. No way, how do you have the Sharingan? Sasuke is the only Uchiha left, Naruto said. The raven-haired one sighed. Please, that foolish younger brother of mine is too weak to have obtained his Sharingan, the short one said. The fish man next to him laughed. Shouldn't we introduce ourselves to our guest, Itachi-san, the fish man said. The shorter man, Itachi nodded. Hello Naruto-san, I am Uchiha Itachi and this is Hoshigaki Kisame. We have come for you. Well, for your bijou to be specific, Itachi said. Naruto's eyes widened. They know about Kyubi-san? Naruto thought with surprise etched all over his face. Don't act you're surprised, it's only natural for a former Konohinin to know about you. Naruto-san? Now come with us quietly so that we don't have to hurt you, Itachi said. Naruto then jumped away and got into the Kitsuniken stance. I'll take that as a no, Kisame said, and then drew his sword. Naruto, knowing this would be tough, drew on Kyubi's chakra, the red chakra forming the silhouette of a tailless kitsune. Naruto looked at the surprised Nuke-nin with his slitted red eyes. Time to die, Naruto said in his demonic voice and then shunshined away. Itachi and Kisame were surprised at the boy's speed, and if it weren't for Itachi's Sharingan being active right now, the fist where his head was would have really hurt. Kisame, however, wasn't so lucky because he was too slow, and the fist continued along its path and hit him the solar plexus, knocking the wind out of him and sending him into a wall. But then Kisame fell as a puddle. Mizubunshin, Naruto said as he turned around facing the Akutsuki duo. Who do you work for? Naruto asked. We work for our organization, Akutsuki. Its goal is to obtain all for our leader's master plan, Itachi answered. Kisame then swung his sword, but Naruto stopped it and punched it away. He then noticed his clawed hand was no longer covered with the chakra cloak, but it returned. That sword, what did it just do, my chakra cloak? Naruto asked Kisame. The former swordsman no Kiri smiled. Samahata, the sword, here has a special attribute in it which allows it to absorb the chakra of my enemies so that I can use it for my own personal gain. Observe, Kisame said as he took out a kunai. Kisame then slashed his arm, but then a glow emanated from Samahata and the wound was instantly healed. Because of this, I have been known by many as the bijou without a tail, Kisame said with a grin. Naruto was surprised to say the least. A sword that absorbs chakra, this would be difficult. Itachi then rushed Naruto and attempted a punch to his gut, but Naruto blocked it and then twisted the Uchiha's arm out of the way and then shot a powerful kick to Itachi's stomach. Itachi jumped away and then Kisame had appeared behind the blonde Jinchuriki and went for a downward slice, aiming to chop off his right arm. Naruto rolled to the side and threw a few kunai. 2 of them hit Kisame, causing the Akutsuki member to flinch in pain. Kisame then removed the kunai and healed his wounds. Well, Itachi-san, it seems our little playmate knows a few good tricks, the blue-skinned man said to his partner. Itachi nodded, but then his eyes widened. Due to the conversation and use of the Sharingan for so long, Itachi had been distracted and got punched in the gut, sending flying out the window, which just happened to be open. Itachi landed gracefully on feet atop a roof and glared at Naruto with his Sharingan spinning wildly. Itachi then sensed another chakra signature and then shunshined by Kisame. "Kisame, we must leave now, Jiraiya-sama had caught on to us," he said. Kisame frowned and looked at Naruto. "Well, the fun had to come to an end sometime. We will come back for you later," Kisame said. "Farewell, Namikaze Naruto," Itachi said. Naruto's eyes widened as the two men left in a swirl of leaves and his Kyuubi cloak left him, his eyes returning to their normal electric blue color. Jiraiya then burst into the room and looked around. "Naruto, what happened? I felt two very strong chakra signatures along with yours," the Gamma Sannin said. Naruto turned towards Jiraiya. "It was two members of an organization that call themselves Akutsuki. The two I met were Hoshigaki Kisame, a former member of the Seven Swordsmen no Kiri, and Uchiha Itachi," Naruto said. Jiraiya's eyes widened, but then saw that Naruto had something else to say. "What else?" he asked. Naruto looked up with a scared expression, an emotion he had never seen in Naruto. "They know about my heritage," Naruto said. Jiraiya's eyes widened even wider than before. "I see, so they know about you and they've begun to move," Jiraiya said. "You know them, Ero-sanin?" Naruto asked. Jiraiya nodded. "My spy network had informed of this organization and their purpose, but we've never known who their members were and when they would move out. All right, Naruto, I have found out where Tsunade is. She's in a small town that revolves around gambling, obviously," he said, muttering the last part. Naruto nodded and went to go get his bag. "Also, I'll be teaching you your father's most powerful offensive jutsu," he added. Naruto froze and looked back at Jiraiya. "What is it? What's it called?" he asked. Jiraiya then held up his left hand and then chakra and wind swirled into it, forming a spherical shape. The chakra could be seen clearly to the naked eye. "Rasengan/Spiraling Chakra Sphere," Jiraiya said with a small smile. Naruto was awestruck. The jutsu was made out of completely raw chakra. "Teach me it," he said with a foxy grin. Jiraiya then reached into his bag and pulled out a water balloon and then held it in his hand. The water balloon then began to move around and the water was pushing at the balloon's surface from the inside as though a number of spikes were trying to pop it. The balloon then completely popped, its remains scattered on the floor. "That's step 1. Pooping a water balloon with just your chakra," Jiraiya told him. "Do that and I'll teach you step 2. Naruto then took a water balloon and tried to pop it, but the balloon didn't pop and only expanded and stretched. "Come on, you can do that on the road to Tsunade," Jiraiya said. Naruto then grabbed his back and the water balloon and then the two checked out of the hotel and headed out. 5 hours later, along the way, Naruto tried to recall what happened to the water balloon as Jiraiya popped it. The water seemed to scramble about, spiking out in all direction. Naruto's eyes brightened and snapped his fingers. "I got it," he said, looking at the balloon. Jiraiya stopped and looked at the blonde. Then his eyes widened. Naruto's balloon was doing what he wanted it to. The spikes of water were shooting up everywhere as Naruto concentrated his chakra. After a few seconds, the balloon finally pooped in the boy's hand. Naruto looked at the Gamma Sannin with a foxy grin. Jiraiya smiled and ruffled the boy's hair. "Good job, Gaki. We'll stop for a few seconds so I can show you the second step. Now, the first step was to use control, the second step is power," he said, and then took out a rubber ball from his bag. The rubber ball then began to convulse and glow from the amount of chakra used, and then the rubber ball exploded. "Power, my young apprentice. That is what is required for your chakra to accomplish this step," Jiraiya said, and then tossed a ball towards Naruto. Naruto then attempted to do what Jiraiya did but found more difficult. "You see, unlike the water balloon, the rubber ball has nothing but air inside it, so you need more chakra to burst it," Jiraiya hinted. Naruto nodded and continued with the second step. The two then arrived in the town where Tsunade was located, and it was at that time Naruto had begun to grow frustrated at his sworn enemy, the rubber ball. He was so mad that he focused all his chakra into the ball in order to vent out his rage. The ball then began to convulse and glow as Naruto got angrier at the ball. The ball then exploded in a burst of light and chakra and Naruto was blown back a few feet. Naruto looked at his hand, which was now covered in chakra burns that were slowly healing. Jiraiya had looked to see what had happened to Naruto and noticed the burns and smiled. "Well, looks like you've finished the second step now. In order to form the Rasengan, you need to combine the control and power in order to create a complete Rasengan," Jiraiya said. "Now I'm going to go look for Tsunade. You go look for a suitable training area for you to train. I'll come for you once we find her because I think you might just find a way to bring her back, Jiraiya added with a grin. Naruto returned the grin with his own foxy grin and then went away to find a suitable training area. Naruto's training area. Naruto was panting on the ground. His clothes were covered with dirt and sweat, and the numerous trees that he had practiced on had spiral markings all over them. Naruto looked at his right hand. It was covered with chakra burns. Naruto looked up at the blue sky. The sun showed it was around 2 p.m. and Naruto still couldn't accomplish it. Naruto then got up and once again attempted to from the destructive orb of chakra. The chakra and wind swirled into his hand, but his own was transparent. You could see the chakra inside it, while Jiraiya's was a mess of spinning chakra that was so dense you could barely see inside it. Naruto then tried to add more chakra. The orb absorbed it and began to become denser, but it then exploded in Naruto's hand, sending the blonde back a few feet. I almost got it that time. I just have to find a way to stabilize it, Naruto said. He then grinned before deciding to take a break. A long one. One day later, Naruto's training area. 6 p.m. Naruto had resumed his training this morning, after sleeping for the rest of yesterday, and was making progress in stabilizing his Rasengan. Naruto held the spinning orb in his hand and then thrust it into a tree. The tree was reduced to splinters in seconds. Naruto smiled. He had done it. He made a Rasengan, but he hadn't mastered it until he could form it one-handed without his other hand needed to be used for stabilization. He wouldn't say he had mastered his father's technique. Naruto then proceeded to master it, but then Jiraiya appeared. Jiraiya looked at the damage and saw Naruto about to form a Rasengan. Jiraiya then stood back to watch before interrupting. Naruto held the spiraling sphere of chakra, but the second he was about to smash it into a tree, it blew up in his face, sending the young genin flying. Jiraiya then thought it was time to intervene. Naruto, Jiraiya called. Naruto got up panting and looked at his mentor. Yeah, Ero-san. Nin, he panted. Jiraiya then walked over and ruffled his hair. I can honestly say that you could form a Rasengan, but you need to work on your stabilizing of it, Jiraiya said. Naruto looked at glared. That's what I've been trying to do. I mean, I can stabilize it when I use my other hand to hold it, but I want to do it like you, and accomplish the Rasengan using only one hand, Naruto said. Jiraiya looked down at the boy and sighed. Well, if you want to do that, just keep the concentration of the Rasengan up, because from what I saw you were more focused on destroying that tree rather than stabilizing your Rasengan, Jiraiya said sagely. Naruto took the Gama-sanen's words to heart and nodded. So, Ero-sanen, I'm guessing that you found Tsunade, Naruto said. Jiraiya smiled and nodded. Come on. She's in some bar. Don't worry about age. Once you're a shinobi, they let you in, Jiraiya said. Naruto just sighed and then ran off after the perverted sage. Some random bar. Jiraiya and Naruto walked in and surveyed the area and looked for Tsunade. Jiraiya's eyes then widened slightly as he spotted a young blonde woman drinking sake. The woman stopped drinking and looked at Jiraiya. The two then glared at each other. Tsunade! Jiraiya shouted. Naruto looked in the direction Jiraiya was looking in and spotted the old hag. But his eyes widened. That was no hag, that a really hot blonde chick in her 20s, not an old Sannin in her 50s. Jiraiya! You baka! Why are you here? Tsunade yelled back. Jiraiya and Naruto then walked over to the table where she sat and took a seat with her. Naruto looked and saw a young brown-haired woman wearing a purple dress and had youthful brown eyes. And you are? Naruto asked. The woman looked and blushed in embarrassment. Gomen, where are my manners? I'm Shizune. Tsunade-sama's apprentice, Shizune said. Naruto nodded. Uzumaki Naruto, apprentice to Jiraiya-sama aka Ero-sanin, Naruto said. Shizune stifled a laugh when she heard Naruto call Jiraiya Ero-sanin. Tsunade then looked at the man and boy. Hey Jiraiya, who's the gaki? She slurred in her drunken state. Jiraiya looked at Naruto and introduced him. I see, so you've taken on another one, eh? But he looks like he doesn't have the amount of talent as the other one, Tsunade said. Jiraiya sighed. This gaki is the other one's son, he said. Tsunade, although in her drunken state of mind, heard what he said and her eyes widened. Oh, now then on to my first question, why are you here? She asked Jiraiya. Tsunade, the Konoha Council has elected you to be its Godame Hokage, Jiraiya said. Tsunade glared at the perverted man. You think I'd go back to that shithole to be a fucking Hokage? Then you got another thing coming. Hokages are always dying, just like Gigi, Sarutobi-sensei, and your little gaki before this one. It's a waste of a job and you end up wasting your life, she said. Naruto's eyes flashed red as he got up. Listen here, Oba-san/grandma. I don't care if you're a Sannin, but don't ever disrespect the title that my father and that Sarujiji held. They were willing to give their lives to help save the village. So just shut your fucking damn mouth, bitch, and come back with us to the village. Naruto yelled as he vented out his anger at the slug Sannin. Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Shizun were all shocked at the language Naruto had just used, and he was sober too. Tsunade then registered what Naruto had just told her and then released her glare of death. Listen here, Gaki, you want to take this outside? She asked. Naruto grinned. Fine by me, Tsunade. Obasan. Tsunade intensified her glare as she got up. Outside the bar. Tsunade and Naruto faced off against each other, both glaring with the intent to rip the other to shreds. Get ready, Obasan, because I'm going to kick your ass, Naruto said. You sound pretty confident, Gaki. In fact, I'll make a bet with you. I bet I'll win this little fight with only one finger, and if I do, I get all your money, and if you win I will buy something for you with my money, Tsunade said. Naruto grinned. He had heard about Tsunade's terrible luck at gambling. Deal, he said. Naruto then rushed Tsunade and sent a punch for her hand, but Tsunade just lifted up her hand and stopped with only her pinky. Shizun and Jiraiya watched from the sidelines as the two fought. Jiraiya-sama, why are you letting Naruto-kun fight Tsunade? You know how aggressive she is when drunk, Shizun said. Jiraiya sighed and looked at Shizun. Because Naruto has something to prove. Prove that being a Hokage is everything worthwhile, because that is his dream. Jiraiya said as he saw Naruto dodge a lethal punch to the gut from Tsunade. Shizun's eyes widened. Also because, when the Gaki's mad like this he's so stubborn, Jiraiya added with a scowl. Naruto then attempted a kick to Tsunade's temple, but she stopped it with her palm. Naruto then poofed into smoke. Kagebunshin, but how? Tsunade said to herself as she ducked under a blow to the head courtesy of Naruto. She then grabbed Naruto's outstretched arm and threw him a few feet away, sending him skidding and rolling in the hard asphalt. Naruto then got up, his wounds quickly being healed by Kyubi. Arigato, Kyubi-san. But I'll end this now, Naruto said. He then stretched out his right hand. Remember, keep a cool head, Naruto reminded himself. Chakra and wind then swirled into his right hand and the orb of chakra glowed with power. Naruto then rushed Tsunade, careful not to lose focus. He then thrust his technique forward. Rasengan, he yelled. Tsunade's eyes widened and then grabbed Naruto's wrist and veered the Rasengan away from her abnormally large chest, sending the Rasengan into the ground, which made an explosion, kicking up dust and asphalt from the road. The smoke cleared to show Naruto moaning in pain as he lay in a crate about 6 feet deep and 15 feet wide. Tsunade looked at the crater surprised and then glared at Jiraiya. Jiraiya, did you teach this Gaki the Rasengan? She asked. Jiraiya nodded with a smile. Of course, who else would, and also by the looks of it, I'd say he just mastered it, he said with pride. Tsunade glared. How long did he take? She asked. Jiraiya held up 2 fingers. 2 days, today and yesterday, he replied, pride still evident in his tone. Tsunade's eyes widened. What? She yelled in disbelief. The Yondaime took 4 years to make it and master it, you yourself took at least 6 months. But 2 days, impossible even if this Gaki is the Yondaime's son, she said. Jiraiya smiled. Well, he just proved you wrong, Jiraiya replied. Naruto groaned as he got up and smiled at Tsunade. Oi, Obasan, he said. Tsunade turned to face Naruto. I win, you used 5 fingers to block my attack, and so you have to buy me ramen for dinner, Naruto said. Tsunade was flabbergasted and sighed. I can't believe it. First gambling, now I'm losing bets to Gakis like you, she said. One question, Gaki, Tsunade said. Naruto turned with a puzzled look on his face. Fire away, he said. Why do you take the title of Hokage so seriously? She asked the blonde Namikaze. Naruto smiled. Because I'm Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto and it's my dream to become Hokage, he said with a foxy grin. Tsunade gasped and got a sad look on her face. He's just like them, she thought, but then looked up with a smile. Come on, Gaki. I have some ramen to buy you, she said. Naruto smirked and then he and the slug Sannin walked off to the ramen stand. They're both so alike, Shizun said as she watched the pair walk off. I know. Naruto and Nawaki are similar in so many ways it's scary, Jiraiya said, and then walked off to follow the 2 blondes. Shizun blinked before walking off after Jiraiya and the 2 blondes. At the ramen stand. To say Tsunade was shocked would be an understatement. She absolutely speechless as she watched Naruto gobble down his 20th bowl of pork ramen. Tsunade looked at her suitcase of gambling money. In her mind, the thousands of Ryu grew wings and fluttered off as Naruto continued eating. Tsunade then sighed in sadness. After his 31st bowl, Naruto was full and patted his fat stomach with a content sigh. Arigato, Tsunade, Abakan, Naruto said to the Sannin with a grin. Tsunade ignored him as she reached into her suitcase and put a large amount of cash. How much is it? She asked the ramen stand owner. The stand owner smiled and said, since the boy has eaten so much, I'll give him a 20% discount so that makes the price to be $2,765 Ryu please, he said holding out his hand with smile. Tsunade wept anime tears as she paid the money. Naruto and the others then left the stand and walked down the road under the moonlit sky. Tsunade was silent the whole way and watched as Naruto looked at the moon with a smirk. So, I'm guessing Orochimaru team paid you a visit, Naruto said. Jiraiya and Shizen smirked. The unreadable Tsunade just became readable. Tsunade was shocked. How did you know? She asked. Naruto grinned. I didn't, you just did. Tsunade scowled at being tricked by the Gaki. Anyway, I guess that because you are the best healer in the entire elemental country, so he and Kabuto probably came to find you, probably make a deal of bringing back the lives of someone precious to you with his Edo Tensei, Naruto calculated. Tsunade was just being surprised again and again as Naruto's assumptions were right time and time again. Don't do it, Naruto told her. Tsunade looked at Naruto and grinned. Why not? She asked. Because he's obviously tricking you so that he would get back the use of his arms and try to destroy Konoha. But the only way that would happen is if you knew a soul-reviving jutsu, Naruto chuckled. Do you? He asked to make sure. Tsunade laughed a bit and shook her head. Nope, Tsunade said. Naruto then smiled. Well, seeing as you have nothing to do, why not come back to Konoha with Ero Sannin and I, Naruto implied. Tsunade blinked before going into a fit of laughter and pointing at Jiraiya. He CC calls while you hear Ero Sannin. She laughed in broken words due to laughing so hard. Jiraiya scowled as he hit Naruto over the head. I told a number of times. Stop calling me that in public, Jiraiya told his student. Naruto clutched his head in pain. Shizen giggled while Tsunade kept laughing. A few seconds later, the laughing stopped. Tsunade wiped tear away from her eyes. Anyway, the answer to your offer is still no, Tsunade said. Naruto was shocked. What, why? Naruto whined. Tsunade chuckled and ruffled Naruto's hair in a motherly way. Naruto then got an idea. I'll make a bet with you, Naruto said. Tsunade, never one to refuse a bet, looked Naruto dead in the eye and smirked. Name your price, she said. Naruto smiled. Okay. When's Orochimaru meeting you? He asked. Tsunade thought for a while. In a week, she answered. Naruto smiled even wider as the smile threatened to split his face. Well, I'm still working on a few jutsu that I made myself, and I bet you that I can complete them by the end of the week, and if I do, you have to come back with me and Ero Sannin, Naruto wagered. Tsunade thought for a bit and shrugged. Alright, but if I win I get all your money and you have to give up on being Hokage, and just to spice things up, if you win I'll throw in this necklace, Tsunade responded as she held the necklace around her neck in her palm. Naruto looked puzzled. What's that necklace's value? He asked. Jiraiya sighed. You baka. Naruto, that necklace belongs to her grandfather, the Shodame Hokage. It's worth about 3 mountains in value. Jiraiya whispered into Naruto's ear. Naruto instantly brightened as cash registers went dinging off in his head. Deal! He shouted as he shook Tsunade's hand. I'm gonna need some sleep then. Let's go, Ero Sannin, Naruto said. Jiraiya scowled as he walked with Naruto away from a giggling Tsunade and Shizun. But then Jiraiya and Shizen began to laugh when Naruto yelled, Johnny Tsunade Abakan. Tsunade scowled in annoyance at her new nickname given to her by Naruto, and then she and Shizen walked off. The next day, Naruto was in the same training field where he trained for the Rasengan. Naruto then rubbed his hands together in anticipation as he prepared for training, but was unable to notice that Shizen was secretly spying on him. Alright, Taju Kagebunshin no jutsu / mass shadow clone jutsu. Naruto yelled, and then a large plume of smoke welcomed the arrival of the hundreds, maybe thousands, of Kagebunshins that came into existence. Naruto smiled. Akuzo, time for work, guys. We gotta win that bet against Tsunade Abakan, Naruto said to his clones. Hi were their replies, and then, as if controlled telepathically, the clones set off into groups aiming to complete their new jutsus as quickly as possible. Shizen watched in surprise at the sheer number of Kagebunshins made by Naruto. Then, for the rest of the day, the groans of concentration of the Kagebunshins and Naruto could be heard. For days later, Jiraiya got up and looked at the bed where Naruto was supposed to sleep and saw that it was completely untouched. Jiraiya sighed as he stretched his stiff muscles, cracking his neck and back in the process. Jiraiya sighed in relief before his gaze returned to Naruto's bed. That Gaki really wants to win that bet, Jiraiya said to no one in particular as he went to have his shower. With Naruto. Naruto was lying on the ground asleep from exhaustion. Jiraiya walked in, fully dressed, and surveyed the damage. Trees were sliced to kindling in some areas as if swords cut through them. Probably practicing his kenjutsu/sword style, Jiraiya thought. The earth was completely ruined and some trees were uprooted. What did the Gaki do here? He asked the wind as it blew through his hair. Then he caught a glint of something shiny in the ground. Jiraiya looked at the spot curiously and then walked over to the spot and bent down to look at it. He touched at it, felt like cool metal, iron, or some other alloy, maybe, Jiraiya guessed, but then realized there was chakra present in the metal. He then looked between Naruto and the metal piece. What are you really doing? Jiraiya questioned the sleeping boy. Naruto just stirred slightly before snoring. Jiraiya then picked up Naruto and transported him to the hotel room. Jiraiya then laid him down on the bed and sighed as he watched Naruto's state. The t-shirt that Naruto wore was completely shredded. His pants were covered in dirt, and that metal alloy and his entire skin surface was covered in cuts, bruises, and dirt. Jiraiya then thought it was time to wake him up. Oi, Naruto, wake up, Jiraiya whispered. Naruto stirred a bit, his eyes fluttering open. He then mumbled something incoherent and then went back to sleep. Jiraiya sighed before he formed some hand signs. Suetun, Suetama no jutsu/water style. Water ball jutsu, Jiraiya said, and then he blew out a ball of water the size of Tsunade's breasts. The ball then splashed into Naruto's face. Naruto screamed as the chilling water soaked his body to the bone. That's mean Ero Sannin, Naruto said to the now laughing Gamma Sannin. Jiraiya stopped laughing and then got serious. Naruto, I want to ask you, as your sensei/mentor, I want to know what the hell are you doing at that field? Jiraiya asked. Naruto smiled. It's a secret, he replied. But then the smile dropped when Jiraiya glared. Naruto, I found some sort of metal alloy on the ground. Now I'll ask one more time, what the hell are you doing at that training? He asked slowly. Naruto sighed before gesturing for the Sannin to come closer. Naruto then whispered something in Jiraiya's ear. The Gamma Sannin's eyes widened. I see, well, like father, like son, always wanting to have something they made themselves, Jiraiya told Naruto. Naruto grinned and then went to have his shower so as to proceed with more training. Day 5 of the bet. Naruto was in his mindscape as he showed Kyubi, Saiyan, Suki, Tenchi, and the other kits his creation. The kitsune present were astonished when they saw the jutsu. Sugoi, Naruto and I wanted that, but I can only do Tsuchi element, a two-tailed male kit known as Kenshin said. Yeah, Naruto and I wanted that when I get my multiple elements at 6 tails, Suki the 5-tailed kitsune said, also Naruto primary summon. Well done, Kit, you certainly have the creative mind of a genius like your father, Kyubi said. Saiyan nodded with a smile as she held Tenchi close to her white fur. Tenchi wagged her blue-tipped tail in happiness that Naruto had mastered one of his creations. Naruto, I want to teach you something, Kyubi told his host. Naruto turned from talking with Suki and looked at Kyubi. Sure, Tusan, Naruto said as he jogged over to the great Kitsune Lord. So what's the jutsu? He asked. Kyubi then reverted into his Hanyu form and explained the jutsu to Naruto. Okay, Kit, this jutsu is called Katan. Kitsune Bakufu no Hai/fire style. Kitsune fire bombs. It summons numerous kitsunes that are formed out of fire chakra and when formed obey your every whim. They are given chakra-infused brains allowing the kitsunes you make to obey the orders you give. The kitsunes then explode whenever you want them to, thus allowing you to not have them explode upon contact with a surface. Then a dummy appeared and Kyubi stepped back as his 6-tailed kit. Jinji stepped forward. Jinji here is the oldest kit here and the strongest, obtaining control over the elements of fire, water, and lightning, and is therefore the most experienced one here, Suki explained to Naruto. Naruto nodded when Jinji glowed with fire chakra. The fire chakra then spread across the grass, which due to Naruto, could not be burned. The fire then formed physical forms of 5 kitsune. Jinji then barked orders saying, "Attack," to those that understood. The order was then processed through the 5 kitsune's chakra-infused brains and then rushed forward, leaving a trail of fire behind. The kitons then jumped and clamped onto the dummy. Jinji then barked, "Explode!" And then a 14-feet mushroom cloud appeared as the kitsune exploded, destroying the dummy. Jinji smiled at his handiwork and then sat back by Cyan. Kyubi nodded in satisfaction. Naruto then walked forward and formed the hand signs Kyubi showed to him. Monkey, rabbit, boar, bird, tiger. Then after Naruto formed these hand signs, fire chakra instantly surrounded him. The fire chakra then spread out and took on the forms of kitsune. Their legs of fire tensed, ready to receive orders from their creator. Naruto smiled before he dispelled them. The foxes howled as they evaporated into the atmosphere of Naruto's mind. "Well done," Naruto-kun, Cyan said, but noticed the exhaustion on his face. Her expression softened. "Well, Kyukun, we have to go now." Naruto-kit's getting tired, Cyan told her mate. Kyubi nodded and then watched as his family left in a plume of smoke. "Well, I'm exhausted. Arigato for the new jutsu Tusen," Naruto said as he hugged the kitsune. Kyubi, still in Hanyu form, smiled and ruffled Naruto's hair like a father would. "No prob, Kit," Kyubi said. Naruto released the hug and then left the confines of his mind to continue training. Day 6 of Bet. Naruto was sleeping on his bed and then got up. He looked at the clock on the hotel's bedside table. It showed 10 a.m. Naruto shrugged and then got up to train for his new project. Naruto then left to the training grounds after having a light breakfast of eggs, bacon, and toast. "Okay, time for training," he said as he opened the door, but halted when he nearly hit Shizune in the hall. "Oh, konnichiwa Shizune-san," he greeted. Shizune looked at the blonde and returned the greeting. Naruto then ran off. Shizune then turned. "Mateo, Naruto-kun," she called. Naruto stopped and looked back at Shizune. "Yeah," Shizune shuffled her feet nervously and then gulped. "There's something about that necklace I need to tell you about," Shizune said. Naruto looked puzzled. "You mean Tsunade Oba-chan's one?" he asked. Shizune nodded. "Well, what is it?" "Well, you see, back when Tsunade-sama was still in Konoha as a jonin, she had given her necklace to her Aotuto/little brother, and it was during the Third Great Shinobi War. Nawaki, that's her Aotuto's name, was then killed by an ambush on his first mission the day after he got the necklace, and when she had been dating my uncle, Dan, she had given him the necklace, and the day after he died from a strike to the heart from the enemy. And from then on, Tsunade-sama calls it the necklace of death because the necklace only accepted her as its wearer," Shizune said. Naruto was looking at the floor, his bangs covering his eyes. "Well then, I'll just have to prove her wrong by winning this bet then," Naruto said. Shizune was about to warn him again, but words failed to come out of her throat as she watched Naruto's retreating back. Night sake bar with Jiraiya and Tsunade. Naruto's been almost non-stop since that day, Jiraiya told the Busta Blonde. Tsunade laughed and downed another shot of sake. "That Gaki thinks he can win." "No chance," Tsunade said. "Hey waiter, another bottle of sake here," she called. Another bottle was placed in front of Tsunade, and as she was about to take another shot, Jiraiya took the bottle and poured himself a shot. "You know you drink too much," he said to the slug Sannin. Tsunade downed another shot and then secretly poured a very strong body-numbing drug into the sake bottle. "Here, Jiraiya. I'm feeling nice today, so you can have this bottle," she slurred. Jiraiya smiled and then took the bottle and poured himself a glass. He then quickly downed it, and then seconds later he fainted. Tsunade then got up and paid the bill. "Gomen, Jiraiya, but it's for your own good," she said and left. Day 7, last day of Bet. Naruto got up and blinked, getting his eyes adjusted to the light. He then smiled, time for him to win his bet. He quickly showered and dressed himself in his kunai protection vest, and wore a black t-shirt over that, and wore a blue jacket with a 5-tailed fox on the back with black ninja sandals, and long blue pants the same color as his jacket. Shizune then burst into the room with a drugged Jiraiya. Naruto gasped. "Ero Sannin, are you okay?" he asked. Jiraiya looked up. His vision was still blurry, and he couldn't move for the next 20 minutes. "Naruto-kun, Tsunade-sama has drugged Jiraiya-sama, and now she is headed for Mayaboku Castle to meet Orochimaru," Shizune said. "That damn woman. I should have seen this coming," Jiraiya said through gritted teeth. Naruto then made a few Kagebunshins to carry Jiraiya. Then Naruto asked Shizune if she had anything that belonged to Tsunade. Shizune took out a handkerchief. Naruto took it and then smelled it. Naruto then opened the window and sniffed the air. "She's this way. Come on, Naruto called as he jumped out the window. Shizune and Jiraiya were surprised at Naruto's sensory abilities, and then Jiraiya and Shizune, with the Kagebunshins helping Jiraiya, all followed the blonde. Mayaboku Castle. Tsunade was there facing the Hibi team. I see you've come. Now heal my broken arms, Orochimaru said. Kabuto stood back as Orochimaru walked towards the slug Sannin, her hands glowing with green healing chakra, but as Orochimaru has gotten closer, Kabuto threw some sunbond between the two. Kabuto, what is the meaning of this? Orochimaru asked. Annoyed, Kabuto fixed his glasses. Well, Tsunade's chakra was fluctuating in power, and then I noticed that the healing jutsu was actually an offensive one, so I stopped her, Kabuto explained. Tsunade, angry that she had been found out, picked up a boulder. You're going to pay Hibi team for killing Sarutobi-sensei, she said, and heaved the boulder. Orochimaru and Kabuto jumped out of the way and into the forest. Tsunade then quickly made haste to pursue the two. Naruto and the others had now arrived and saw the broken boulder. Naruto then sniffed the air. He smelt 2 snakes and a smell of slugs mixed with sake. Tsunade, Orochimaru, and Kabuto were here, Naruto said. Naruto sniffed the air once more and looked back at Jiraiya, who could now move, and Shizune. They went east, let's go, Naruto said. Jiraiya nodded, and then the 3 of them jumped away in the direction of Tsunade. Some random clearing. The ground was completely destroyed as Tsunade attempted to punch Kabuto. But Kabuto dodged the lethal blow and the fist turned a boulder into rubble. My. Someone's angry, Kabuto said, adjusting his glasses. Tsunade turned and raced forward. Shut up, you stupid bitch, and get hit already, Tsunade said. Kabuto repeatedly dodged the punch, but was hit by an unexpected kick to the stomach and sent crashing into the ground before his face came into contact with a boulder. Ooh, that's gotta hurt. Even if it is Kabuto, Orochimaru said from the rock he was sitting on. Tsunade had then managed to hit a chop to Kabuto's neck, ruining his senses. Tsunade smirked and then did her legendary heel kick into Kabuto's back. Kabuto screamed in pain as the ground split from the impact. Tsunade jumped away, satisfied with her work, when Kabuto fell unconscious. Her eyes widened when she saw Kabuto get up and fix his broken glasses. Good show, Tsunade-sama, but it's going to need more than that to beat me, he said, dusting off his clothes. Kabuto then ran forward and cut his hand. The blood flew and Tsunade instantly froze. Kabuto then jumped back and took out a few kunai. Looks like that hemophobia kicked in, but time for you to die now, Kabuto said, and then fired the knives of death. Then the kunai were deflected when a poof of smoke appeared in front of Tsunade. The smoke cleared to reveal Shizune, Jiraiya, and Naruto. Oh my, more people to join the party, Orochimaru said from his rock. Naruto then looked at Tsunade. What's wrong with Tsunade Oba-chan? He asked Shizune. It's her homophobia, Shizune replied. I see, fear of blood, Naruto said, and then faced Kabuto. Kabuto team and Orochimaru team, you two will both fall today, Naruto said. Such strong words. Let's see if you can back them up, Kabuto said. Arrow Sannin, I'll handle 4 eyes here, you take the Hibi, Naruto said. Jiraiya nodded, and then the two split up while Shizune watched over Tsunade. I will win, Naruto said to Tsunade before moving.